Hi guys, tonight we step into a world so distant that even memory itself has not yet learned how to stay. You find yourself beneath a wide and quiet African sky, where the air is warm, the earth is open, and the horizon stretches without interruption. There are no cities here, no roads, no distant glow of artificial light, only land, sky, and the gentle movement of life. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it's share where you are in the world right now and what time it is where you're listening from. It is always fascinating to imagine these quiet journeys connecting people across different nights and different places. Now dim the lights and let yourself settle into the rhythm of a time that moves far more slowly than anything you know today. You stand barefoot on dry ground, the texture of dust and scattered grass brushing lightly against your skin. The air carries a faint earthy scent mixed with something sharper, perhaps the trace of distant animals. Around you the landscape feels alive but not crowded. Life exists here in quiet patterns. Nothing rushes, nothing wastes energy. This is Africa somewhere between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago, during what scientists call the late Pleistocene. A commonly accepted understanding is that this is the cradle of Homo sapiens, the place where our species first began to take shape. The climate shifts slowly between wetter and drier periods, creating a patchwork of grasslands, woodlands, and scattered water sources. It is not a stable world, but it is not chaotic either. It breathes in long, slow cycles. You move carefully, not out of fear exactly, but out of awareness. Every sound matters here. A rustle in the grass could be wind, or it could be something watching. Your senses are always gently alert, never fully at rest. Nearby, a small group moves with you. They are not strangers, though the concept of naming relationships is still distant. These are the people you travel with, sleep near and rely on. Groups like this are usually small, perhaps 20 to 30 individuals. Anthropologists suggest that early human communities stayed within this range because it allowed for cooperation without overwhelming social complexity. You notice how little they carry. There are no bags filled with possessions, no tools hanging from belts in abundance. A few simple stone tools are shared among the group. Some are held loosely in hand, others tucked into the folds of animal skin. These tools are not refined, but they are meaningful. Each one represents effort, skill, and time. A quieter detail that often goes unnoticed is how these early tools were likely reused and reshaped many times. A single stone could serve multiple purposes across weeks or even months, slowly changing form as it chipped and wore down. Nothing is wasted here. Everything is part of a long, continuous process. You bend slightly, brushing your fingers across the ground. The soil is warm from the day's sun. There's a faint vibration beneath your touch, not something you hear, but something you feel. The distant movement of larger animals, perhaps, or simply the quiet shifting of the land itself. Scholars remain divided on how early humans perceived their environment at this stage. Some researchers suggest that awareness was highly immediate, focused almost entirely on survival and present conditions. Others propose that even at this early point there may have been a subtle sense of curiosity, a quiet noticing of patterns beyond immediate need. As you walk, you notice a cluster of trees ahead, their leaves casting soft broken shadows on the ground. The group moves toward them without discussion. There is an unspoken understanding here, a shared rhythm that guides movement. Shade means rest. Trees might mean food. It is enough. The sunlight shifts as you step beneath the branches. The air feels cooler, softer. You lower yourself slowly to the ground, feeling the slight unevenness beneath you. Small stones press gently against your skin, not uncomfortable, just present. You listen. There is wind moving through leaves, the distant call of birds, a low, almost humming sound from insects hidden in the grass. It is not silent, but it is calm. Each sound exists in its own space, not layered into noise the way modern life often feels. and you might find yourself wondering how different this is from your own world. Today, silence is often something we seek out deliberately, perhaps through headphones or quiet rooms. Here, silence is not an absence. It is simply the natural balance of sound. A figure nearby adjusts their position, shifting slightly closer to the trunk of a tree. Their movements are slow, economical. Energy is valuable. Even rest is intentional. You notice the sky through the gaps in the leaves. It is a pale, endless blue, untouched by any sign of smoke or structure. The sun sits high, steady, predictable in its path. Yet even this predictability is not fully understood. The concept of time as measured in hours or days does not exist here. Instead, life follows light and darkness, warmth and cold. Historians continue to question how early humans interpreted these cycles. Did they see patterns in the sky, or did each day simply feel like a continuation of the last? The answer remains uncertain, hidden within the long silence of this era. As the group rests, you become aware of your own breathing. Slow, steady. There is no urgency here, no schedule waiting to be met, only the quiet necessity of staying alive one moment at a time. After a while, movement begins again. It is subtle at first, a shift in posture, a glance toward the open land beyond the trees. Then gradually the group rises. There is no signal, no command, just a shared sense that it is time to continue. You stand with them brushing dust from your skin. The warmth of the ground lingers briefly before fading. The open landscape stretches ahead once more wide and uncertain. Some historians suggest that these early movements were not random, but guided by an evolving understanding of the environment. Water sources, animal migration patterns, and seasonal changes likely influenced where groups travelled. Others argue that much of this movement remained instinctive, shaped by immediate conditions rather than long-term planning. As you walk, you pass faint marks on the ground, tracks. Some are fresh, others already softening at the edges. You do not stop to examine them closely, but you notice them. Awareness is constant, even when it is quiet. The air begins to cool slightly as the day progresses. Shadows grow longer, stretching across the land in slow motion. There is a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a gentle transition toward evening, and with it comes a familiar feeling. Not fear exactly, but a kind of careful attention. Night will arrive, and with it a different world. A world where sight fades and other senses take over. A world that is harder to predict. You continue walking the rhythm of your steps, steady, unhurried. Around you the group moves as one, each individual aware of the others without needing to speak. This is how life unfolds here. Not in dramatic moments, but in quiet continuity. Not in clear milestones, but in small repeated actions. And as the sun begins its slow descent, you realize that you are standing at the very edge of something vast and unknowable. A time before stories, before records, before history can truly begin. A time that stretches for tens of thousands of years, leaving behind only fragments for the future to piece together. And you are here in the middle of it, walking gently through a world that no one will ever fully understand. You continue moving across the open land, the memory of shade already fading behind you. The ground beneath your feet feels slightly cooler now, though the air still holds the warmth of the day. There is no sense of hurry, only a quiet continuation, step after step, as if time itself has stretched into something softer. Here in this distant age, memory does not behave the way you might expect. It does not gather neatly into stories or settle into clear sequences. Instead, it drifts. Moments pass, impressions linger briefly, then dissolve. You experience, you respond, and then you move forward again. A commonly accepted understanding is that early Homo sapiens during this period did not yet rely on structured language as we know it today. Without complex speech, the ability to record events through words remains limited. Communication exists, of course, but it is immediate, grounded in gesture tone and shared attention rather than detailed narration. You glance toward one of the others in your group. Their movement catches your eye, a slight lift of the hand, a turn of the head. It is enough. You understand something has changed ahead, not through explanation, but through awareness. You follow their gaze. In the distance, a line of darker earth suggests a change in terrain. Perhaps a shallow depression where water once gathered. Perhaps a place where animals have passed recently. You do not analyze it in words, but your body responds. Your path shifts slightly, guided by instinct and observation. Scholars remain divided on how early human cognition handled memory at this stage. Some researchers propose that memory was primarily short-term, focused on immediate survival needs such as food sources and potential threats. Others suggest that even without language there may have been early forms of long-term recall, especially related to landscapes and recurring patterns. As you walk, you notice something small on the ground, a stone slightly sharper along one edge than the others around it. You pause, crouching slowly, your fingers brushing over its surface. It feels cool smooth in some places, rough in others. You pick it up. There is no word for tool in your mind, no category that defines its purpose. But there is recognition. This shape can cut. It can scrape. It can change something. A quieter detail that often surprises modern researchers is how early tool use did not necessarily involve immediate planning. Instead of crafting an object for a specific future task, early, humans may have responded to opportunities in the moment. A stone becomes useful because it is there, because its shape suggests possibility. You turn the stone slightly in your hand, feeling its weight. Then without ceremony you keep it, not as a possession in the modern sense, but as something that might matter later. The group continues moving, and you fall back into rhythm with them. The sky above has begun to shift in colour, the pale blue softening towards something warmer, more muted. The light stretches gently across the land, touching everything with a faint golden tone. You notice how the world changes without asking for attention. There is no announcement of evening, no clear boundary between day and night, only a gradual transition, one that you feel more than observe. Some historians suggest that this lack of clear temporal structure shaped how early humans experienced life. Without clocks or calendars, time becomes something fluid. Moments are not measured, they are simply lived. You breathe in slowly. The air feels different now, cooler, carrying a faint trace of moisture. Somewhere nearby, though still out of sight, there may be water. Your senses pick up on it before your mind fully understands. The group begins to angle slightly toward the scent. Again, no discussion, just a shared movement guided by subtle cues. You might find it interesting that even today humans retain traces of this sensitivity. Our ability to detect environmental changes, shifts in smell or sound, remains part of us, though often dulled by modern surroundings. Here it is, everything. As you approach a lower stretch of land, the ground softens beneath your feet. The texture changes from dry dust to something slightly damp. You slow your steps, feeling the difference. There ahead, a shallow pool reflects the fading light of the sky. It is not large, not permanent, but it is enough. Water gathers in places like this after seasonal rains, sometimes lasting days, sometimes longer. You kneel near the edge, your fingers touching the surface. It is cool, almost startling against your skin. Small ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection of the sky above. A commonly accepted fact is that access to water sources like this played a central role in early human movement. Groups often followed seasonal patterns, returning to familiar locations, where water and food were more likely to be found. You drink slowly, cupping your hands. The taste is simple, slightly earthy. It is not filtered, not purified, but it is life. Nearby others do the same. Some remain standing, watching the surrounding area. Even in moments of rest, awareness does not fade completely. Researchers continue to question how early humans balance rest with vigilance. Did they take turns watching for danger, or was awareness shared collectively, each individual contributing in small ways? The evidence is not clear, but the behavior suggests a quiet cooperation. As you sit back, you notice the sky deepening in color. The first hints of evening begin to settle. The warmth of the day slips away, replaced by a cooler, softer air. There is a stillness now, not empty but full in a different way. You listen again. The sounds have changed. Daytime calls fade, replaced by quieter, more distant noises. The rustle of grass feels sharper, more defined. The world seems to draw inward, and you realize something subtle. Without structured memory, without recorded stories, each moment here stands alone yet connects to the next, through experience rather than narration. Life is not a sequence of events to be remembered later. It is a continuous presence. You shift slightly, feeling the ground beneath you, the faint coolness rising through your body. There is no need to think about tomorrow. Tomorrow will arrive on its own. Some scholars suggest that this way of experiencing time may have shaped early human psychology in profound ways. Without the burden of distant past or distant future attention, remains anchored in the present. Others argue that even in this early period there may have been a growing awareness of patterns of repetition, of something that resembles memory as we understand it. The truth, like much of this era, remains uncertain. You glance once more at the water, now darker, reflecting the dimming sky. Soon movement will begin again. A place to rest must be found before night fully arrives. But for now you remain still, breathing, listening, existing within a moment that will leave no trace, no record, no story. And yet it is part of something vast, a long quiet stretch of human history that unfolds without witnesses, without words, and without clear explanation. You rise slowly from the edge of the water, the coolness still lingering on your hands. The surface settles behind you, returning to stillness as if nothing had disturbed it at all. Around you the group begins to shift, once more subtle movements, signalling that rest has ended and something else is about to begin. The light continues to soften. Shadows stretch longer across the ground, blending into one another until the land itself feels less defined. You step carefully now, aware that clarity is fading. The world is not becoming dangerous, but it is becoming different. As you walk, your fingers tighten slightly around the stone you picked up earlier. You turn it again, noticing the sharper edge catching what remains of the light. There is something quiet but important happening here. A commonly accepted understanding is that some of the earliest known stone tools date back more than 2 million years, far before your time. These earlier tools, often associated with species like Homo habilis, were simple but effective. By the period you now walk through, tool-making has become more refined, though still far from what would come later. You glance down at the stone again. It is not shaped by careful design in the way modern tools are. Instead, it carries the marks of quick, purposeful strikes. One stone hitting another, removing flakes, creating an edge. There is no blueprint, no detailed plan, only an emerging sense of what works. A quieter detail that often goes unnoticed is how much patience this process requires. Each strike can change the stone in unpredictable ways. Too much force and it shatters. Too little and nothing happens. Early humans likely learned through repetition, through failure, through quiet observation of cause and effect. You slow your steps, noticing another individual crouch nearby. They hold a larger stone in one hand, a smaller one in the other. You watch as they bring them together with a firm, controlled motion. A sharp sound breaks the calm, brief but clear. A small fragment falls away. They pause, turning the stone, examining it. Not with words, but with attention. Then again another strike, another change. Researchers continue to question how knowledge of toolmaking was passed on during this period. Without structured language, teaching would have relied heavily on imitation, watching, repeating, adjusting. Some scholars suggest that this may have been one of the earliest forms of cultural transmission where skills move from one individual to another without formal instruction. You remain still for a moment, observing. There is no urgency in their movements. Each action feels measured, even if it is not consciously planned. Over time, the stone begins to take on a more defined shape. One side grows sharper, more consistent. It becomes something that can cut more effectively, something that can open skin-slice plant fibers or scrape surfaces. You lower your gaze to your own stone. It is rougher, less refined, but still it holds potential. And you might find yourself wondering how something so simple could matter so much. In a world without manufactured tools, without stored supplies, the ability to shape a stone like this can mean the difference between hunger and nourishment, between effort and efficiency. It is a small change, but it shifts everything just slightly. Some historians suggest that this gradual improvement in toolmaking marks a quiet turning point in human evolution. Others argue that the changes were so slow, so incremental, that those living through them would not have noticed anything at all. As you begin walking again, you carry the stone with a different kind of awareness, not as an object, but as an extension of your ability to interact with the world. The land ahead becomes slightly uneven, dotted with patches of exposed rock. Your steps adjust naturally, your body responding without conscious thought. Balance, movement, awareness. All of it flows together. The air continues to cool, and a faint breeze moves across the landscape. It carries with it new scents, unfamiliar but not alarming. Perhaps animals moving through the distance. Perhaps vegetation releasing moisture as the temperature drops. You notice how the group spreads out slightly as you move, not separating but creating space. Each individual maintains a subtle awareness of the other's adjusting distance without needing to look directly. A commonly accepted fact is that early human groups likely relied on this kind of spatial awareness to function effectively. Too close and movement becomes restricted. Too far and connection is lost. There is a balance here maintained without discussion. As you step over a low rise, the view ahead opens briefly. The land dips into a shallow valley where shadows have already begun to gather. The sky above shifts toward deeper shades, the first hints of evening settling in more fully. You pause for just a moment, not because you need to, but because something draws your attention. In the fading light, you notice marks on a nearby rock surface. Faint lines, irregular, not immediately meaningful. You move closer, your fingers brushing over them lightly. They are not deliberate markings in the way later humans would create art, but they are not entirely random either. Perhaps the result of repeated tool strikes. Perhaps the byproduct of shaping stone against stone. Scholars remain divided on when intentional symbolic behavior truly began. Some researchers suggest that early humans may have started leaving marks like these long before they carried meaning in a modern sense. Others argue that true symbolism came much later when abstract thinking became more developed. You pull your hand away, leaving the marks behind as they were. The group continues moving, and you follow the brief moment of curiosity fading into the larger rhythm of the evening. The temperature drops further now. You feel it against your skin, a gentle but noticeable change. The warmth of the day is slipping away, replaced by a cooler, more neutral air. And with it comes a familiar awareness. Night's approaching. You notice how movement becomes slightly more deliberate. The group begins to look for something, though it is not spoken. A place to settle. A location that offers some form of protection, even if only minimal. There are no constructed shelters here. No walls, no roofs. Instead, the land itself provides what it can. A cluster of rocks. A shallow depression. The base of a tree. Researchers continue to question how early humans selected resting places. Was it purely instinct, or did the experience guide their choices over time? The answer remains uncertain, shaped by limited evidence and careful interpretation. You step carefully over another patch of uneven ground, your hand still holding the stone. It feels heavier now, not physically, but in significance. It is a quiet companion. A small piece of shaped earth that connects you to something larger, a slow unfolding process that stretches across generations. And as the last light of day begins to fade, you realize that these small actions, these simple tools, are part of a much bigger story. A story that will take tens of thousands of years to fully emerge. A story that even now is only partially understood. You continue walking into the deepening dusk, the land softening around you. The sky dimming above, carrying with you a fragment of change that feels almost invisible yet quietly profound. The last traces of daylight slip gently across the land, thinning into a soft grey that settles over everything. You feel it more than you see it, the quiet shift from one kind of world into another. The air cools further, brushing lightly against your skin, and the ground beneath your feet begins to release the warmth it held throughout the day. You slow your steps. Around you, the group has become quieter. Movement is still there, but it is more deliberate now, more contained. Night is not something to rush into. You notice how the sky above deepens the pale blue, fading into muted shades, then darker still. One by one, the first stars begin to appear faint at first, then clearer as the light continues to fade. And with this change, something else becomes more noticeable. The absence. There is no fire here, no flickering light to hold back the darkness, no circle of warmth to gather around, only the open night wide and unbroken. A widely accepted view among researchers is that consistent control of fire likely developed much later than this moment, possibly around 400,000 years ago, though earlier intermittent use may have occurred. In this time, your walking through fire is not yet a reliable part of daily life. You feel the difference immediately. As darkness settles, the temperature drops more sharply. The air no longer holds the softness of evening. It becomes cooler, thinner, almost distant. Your body responds without thought. Muscles tighten slightly. Movements become more economical. Nearby, one of the others lowers themselves to the ground near a cluster of stones. You follow, choosing a place that feels slightly sheltered, though the protection is minimal. A gentle slope, a few rocks, nothing more. You sit. The earth beneath you is no longer warm. It carries a faint chill that slowly seeps upward. You shift your position, adjusting instinctively, trying to minimize the contact. And you might find yourself wondering how nights like this were endured. Without fire, warmth must come from the body itself, from proximity to others, from the careful use of whatever coverings are available. Some individuals wrap themselves loosely in animal skins, though these are simple, not yet shaped or fitted in any complex way. A lesser-known detail is that early use of animal hides may not have been primarily for clothing as we think of it today, but for occasional protection from wind or cold, often used only when conditions demanded it. You draw your arms closer to your body, conserving heat. Your breathing remains steady, slow, as if your body understands that energy must be preserved. The sounds of the night begin to emerge. At first they are faint, a distant call, the soft movement of something in the grass. Then gradually they become more defined. Not louder, but clearer as your senses adjust. You listen carefully. Every sound carries meaning, even if that meaning is not fully understood. A sudden movement might signal danger. A repeated call might suggest distance. Your awareness stretches outward, even as your body remains still. Some researchers continue to explore how early humans managed fear in environments like this. Without light, without clear visibility, the unknown becomes more present. Yet it is likely that familiarity with these conditions reduced panic. The night was not new. It was simply another part of life. You lie down slowly, the ground firm beneath you. Small stones press against your side, not painful, just noticeable. You shift again, finding a position that feels slightly more stable. There is no softness here, no bedding, no separation between you and the earth, and yet over time the body adapts. You notice the sky again now, darker, filled with more stars than you have ever seen in your modern life. They stretch across the horizon, countless points of light, steady and silent. There is no understanding of what they are, no stories attached to them. Not yet. Only presence. Some scholars suggest that early humans may have noticed patterns in the sky long before they understood them, while others believe that such observations required a level of abstract thinking that had not fully developed. The question remains open, resting quietly alongside so many others from this time. A breeze moves across the land, subtle but persistent. It carries with it a deeper chill now. You feel it along your arms, your face, your neck. You draw closer to the others, not consciously seeking comfort, but responding to the shared warmth. Bodies near each other create a small pocket of heat, a slight difference that matters more than you might expect. This quiet closeness hints at something important. Early forms of cooperation. Not structured, not defined, but present. Groups that stayed together had a better chance of enduring nights like this. Warmth awareness shared space. These small advantages added up over time. You close your eyes briefly. Sleep does not come easily, not in the way you might know it. It arrives in fragments, short stretches of rest interrupted by subtle awakenings. A sound, a shift in temperature, a movement nearby. Your mind never fully lets go. A commonly held belief is that early human sleep patterns were far more segmented than modern ones. Without artificial light, without fixed schedules, rest likely followed natural rhythms, with periods of wakefulness throughout the night. You drift for a moment, then return, your eyes open again, adjusting quickly to the darkness. The shapes around you are faint but familiar enough. The outline of a body, the curve of a rock, the distant horizon. Time passes, though it does not feel measured, only experienced. Somewhere in the distance, a low sound echoes briefly, then fades. You remain still listening. No immediate movement follows. The group does not react. The moment settles back into quiet, and gradually your body begins to relax again. Not completely, but enough. This is how night is lived here. Not as a deep escape into sleep, but as a careful balance between rest and awareness, between stillness and readiness. You feel the ground, the air, the subtle presence of others nearby, and within it a quiet understanding forms. This world does not offer comfort easily, but it allows survival, in small ways, in quiet ways, and as you lie beneath the vast unlit sky surrounded by darkness that feels both distant and close, you become part of a rhythm that has no clear beginning and no clear explanation. A rhythm that will continue night after night for thousands of years. You wake slowly, not all at once, but in layers. First there is the faint awareness of your body against the ground, then the cool air brushing your skin, then the quiet realization that the darkness has softened slightly. The night has not fully lifted, but it is beginning to loosen its hold. Around you the group remains mostly still. A few subtle movements suggest that others are also returning from light-broken sleep. No one speaks. There are no words to fill the space. Only breath, slow and steady, shared in the dimness. The sky above has shifted just enough to hint at what is coming. A faint grey stretches along the horizon, barely visible but present. Morning is near. You sit up gradually, your muscles responding with a slight stiffness. The ground has left its quiet imprint on your body. Not painful, just noticeable, a reminder of the night. You listen. The sounds are different now. The deeper tones of the night begin to fade, replaced by lighter, softer movements. Small creatures stirring. The first distant calls of birds. The world is waking just as you are. You notice someone nearby turning their head toward you. Their eyes meet yours for a brief moment. There is no greeting, no acknowledgement in the way you might expect, yet something passes between you. Understanding. A small shift of the hand, a subtle change in posture, communication without words. Many researchers believe that during this period, early humans relied heavily on gesture, facial expression, and shared attention to communicate. Complex spoken language had not yet fully developed, but that did not mean silence. It meant a different kind of connection, one that was immediate and deeply tied to the present moment. You rise to your feet, brushing dust from your skin. The air feels cooler than the previous day, though still gentle. As the light grows, the shapes around you begin to take form again. Rocks, ground, bodies, all slowly returning from shadow. You pick up your stone from where it rested beside you. It feels familiar now. Not new, not surprising, but known. You turn it once in your hand, the edge catching the soft morning light. It has not changed, yet your awareness of it has. It is no longer just something you found. It is something you carry. A detail that often goes unnoticed is how repeated interaction with objects like this may have strengthened early cognitive patterns. The act of recognizing, remembering, and reusing tools suggests a growing continuity in thought, even without formal language to support it. The group begins to move again, slowly at first, a shift here, a step there. Then gradually a shared direction forms. You follow. There is no discussion of where to go, no map, no plan laid out in words, and yet movement is not random. is guided by something quieter: memory of places, awareness of patterns, the subtle pull of familiarity. Some experts suggest that even at this early stage, humans may have developed a kind of mental mapping and internal sense of landscape that allowed them to return to known areas over time. Others believe movement remained largely reactive, shaped by immediate needs rather than long-term planning. The truth likely rests somewhere in between. As you walk, the light continues to grow. The sky shifts from grey to pale blue, then slowly deepens. The warmth of the sun has not yet returned fully, but its presence is beginning to be felt. You notice the ground more clearly now. Small tracks cross your path, some fresh, some fading. You do not stop to study them in detail, but your awareness adjusts. Movement has passed through here, perhaps recently. You glance toward the horizon. The land stretches wide, broken only by gentle rises and scattered vegetation. There are no boundaries, no clear divisions, only space, and within that space life moves. A figure ahead pauses, crouching slightly. You slow as well, your attention drawn to the same point. Something small in the grass. Perhaps food. Perhaps something else. You watch as they reach down their fingers, moving carefully. A plant low to the ground. Leaves small and clustered. They pull gently, lifting it free. Food. Simple, quiet, essential. A commonly accepted understanding is that early human diets were highly varied depending on environment and availability. Plants, roots, fruits, small animals when possible. There was no fixed menu, no consistent supply. Only what could be found, gathered, or occasionally hunted. You move closer, watching. They examine the plant briefly, then begin to eat. No preparation, no cooking, just direct use of what the land provides. You feel a subtle shift in your own awareness. Hunger, not sharp, not urgent, but present. You begin to look more closely at the ground, scanning for similar signs. Small movements, slight differences in colour, patterns that might reveal something useful. This is how attention works here. Not scattered, not distracted, focused. Grounded. You notice another cluster of plants nearby. You crouch, touching them lightly. The texture is slightly rough, the leaves firm. You pull one free, bringing it closer. There is no hesitation. You eat. The taste is mild, slightly bitter. Not unpleasant, just simple. It fills a small space enough for now. A quieter detail worth noting is that early humans likely developed a deep familiarity with the local plant life over time, learning which were safe, which were useful, and which to avoid. This knowledge would have been passed through observation and experience rather than formal teaching. You rise again, the group already moving forward. The rhythm continues, step by step, moment by moment, and yet something else is beginning to form beneath it all. A kind of shared awareness that extends beyond immediate action. You notice how individuals respond to one another. A glance, a shift, a pause. These small signals guide movement, shape decisions, maintain connection. Some researchers propose that this period marks an important stage in the development of social intelligence. The ability to read others, to anticipate behaviour, to coordinate without words. These skills would later become essential as human societies grew more complex. You walk beside the others, your pace steady, your senses open. The sun begins to rise higher now, its warmth returning gradually. Light spreads across the land, revealing more detail, more texture, more life. And with it the night fades completely. You feel the difference, not just in temperature but in possibility. Day allows movement, search, discovery. You glance once more at the stone in your hand, at the ground beneath your feet, at the group moving quietly beside you, and you realize that something subtle is changing. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily. A slow shift in how you interact with the world. How you notice, how you remember, how you respond. These changes are almost invisible in the moment, yet over thousands of years they will reshape everything. And you are here within that quiet beginning, walking forward without knowing exactly where it leads. You continue forward with the group, the morning now fully settled around you. The air has warmed gently and the ground beneath your feet feels more familiar again, dry and steady. Light spreads across the land in a soft, even way, revealing small details that were hidden only moments before. There is no clear destination, and yet you are not lost. You move as though guided by something quiet and internal, a sense that does not rely on directions or landmarks in the way you might expect. The land unfolds ahead, and you follow it. This is what it means to wander without maps. You notice how your path is not straight. It curves slightly, adjusting to the terrain, to the vegetation, to the subtle changes in the ground. You move around obstacles without thinking, stepping over stones, shifting around thicker patches of grass, your body responding naturally. A widely supported idea among anthropologists is that early humans developed a deep spatial awareness of their environment. Even without formal mapping, they could recognize patterns in the landscape, remembering water sources, safe areas, and routes that led to food. This knowledge was not written down, but carried within the body and mind. You glance toward the horizon again. There is no sign marking where you have been, no trail left behind. The wind, the animals, and time itself erase any trace of your passing. If you were to turn around, the land would look much the same, and still there is a sense of direction. Some researchers suggest that early humans may have relied on environmental cues such as the position of the sun, the slope of the land, or even the behavior of animals to guide their movement. Others believe that memory of repeated journeys created a kind of mental pathway, even if it was not consciously recognized. You walk beside another member of the group. Their pace matches yours for a while, then shifts slightly ahead, then falls back again. There is no fixed position, no leader standing apart from the others. Movement is shared, fluid. You notice a faint breeze moving across the land, carrying with it a subtle change in scent. It is not strong, but it is different enough to catch your attention. Something ahead is not the same as what lies behind. You slow slightly, letting your senses adjust. There is a faint trace of moisture again, similar to what you noticed the day before. Perhaps another water source lies somewhere ahead, though not yet visible. Without discussion, the group begins to angle slightly in that direction. This quiet coordination reveals something important. Even without language as you know it, information flows between individuals. Attention shifts collectively. Decisions emerge from shared awareness rather than spoken agreement. A detail that often surprises modern observers is how effective this kind of communication can be. Without the need for constant verbal exchange, early humans may have relied more heavily on observation and subtle cues, creating a form of interaction that is both quiet and precise. You continue walking your steps steady. The sun rises higher now, its warmth settling more firmly against your skin. The light becomes stronger, casting shorter shadows, bringing clarity to the landscape. You notice the ground changing slightly beneath you. The soil becomes firmer, more compact, with fewer scattered stones. The vegetation shifts as well, becoming denser in small patches, then thinning again. Each change tells you something, even if you do not put it into words. You pass a narrow stretch where the land dips slightly, forming a natural path. It feels easier to walk here, the ground smoother, the movement more fluid. Others follow the same route, not because it has been chosen, but because it feels right. Some scholars suggest that repeated use of such natural paths may have contributed to the earliest forms of trail formation long before deliberate roads existed. Over time, these routes could become familiar, reused, and gradually more defined. You move through this space quietly, the rhythm of your steps matching those around you. There is a calmness to it, a sense of continuity, and yet beneath it there is always a subtle awareness. The world here is open but not empty. You notice movement in the distance. A group of animals grazing slowly across the land. They're not close enough to pose immediate concern, but they are present. Their shapes shift gently as they move, blending into the landscape. You watch them for a moment. There is no immediate reaction from the group. No sudden change in direction, just awareness. Some experts propose that early humans developed a careful balance when encountering animals. Not every sighting led to action. Sometimes it was better to observe to understand movement patterns, to wait. You continue walking. The land stretches onward. The sky remains clear, Time passes, though it is not counted, and you begin to notice something else. A subtle familiarity, not in the exact details, but in the feeling of the place. The way the land rises and falls, the pattern of vegetation, the quality of the air. Have you been here before? It is difficult to say. Without clear memory, without names or defined locations, recognition is not precise. But there is a sense of knowing, a faint impression that this space is not entirely new. Researchers continue to explore how early humans experience familiarity and place. Some believe that repeated movement through similar environments created a kind of generalized recognition rather than specific memory. Others suggest that certain landmarks, even subtle ones, may have been remembered over time. You pause briefly or gaze moving across the horizon. There is nothing that stands out clearly, and yet something feels known. You take another step forward. The feeling fades, slightly replaced by the immediate presence of the moment. This is how wandering works here, not as a search for something specific, but as a continuous movement through space guided by need awareness and quiet instinct. You feel the ground beneath you, the warmth of the sun above, the presence of others nearby, and you move, not toward a destination, but through a world that is always changing, always shifting, always offering something new to notice. A world without maps, without boundaries, without fixed paths, and yet one that you navigate with a quiet confidence that does not need to be explained. You keep moving with the group, the steady rhythm of walking settling into your body again. The sun now sits higher in the sky, its warmth more noticeable, pressing gently against your shoulders and back. The air feels drier than before, and the faint traces of moisture you sensed earlier have faded. Hunger returns. Not sharply, not urgently, but as a quiet presence that stays with you. It does not demand attention, yet it shapes everything you do. You begin to notice how often your gaze drops toward the ground, scanning without fully thinking. Small variations in colour, slight movements, the difference between one patch of land and another. Your attention narrows, guided by a need that feels both constant and patient. In prehistoric environments like this, food was never guaranteed. Early human groups depended on what could be gathered, or occasionally hunted, which meant that energy intake varied from day to day. Some days brought abundance, others offered very little. You move closer to a patch of low vegetation, crouching carefully. Your fingers brush across the leaves, testing their texture. Some are too tough, others too thin. You pull one free and bring it closer. The smell is faint. You taste it. It offers little but not nothing. You continue. A quieter detail often overlooked is that early humans likely spent a significant portion of their day searching for food, not because they lacked skill, but because the environment itself was unpredictable. Even with knowledge and experience, success was never certain. You rise again, your movements slow and deliberate, conserving energy without realizing it. Nearby, another member of the group has found something more substantial. A small cluster of roots pulled from the ground, still carrying traces of soil. They begin to eat, breaking them apart with their hands. You watch for a moment, then move closer. There is no sense of ownership here in the way you might expect. Food is not divided through rules or measured portions. It is shared through proximity, through quiet acceptance. You take a piece. The texture is firm, slightly fibrous. The taste is stronger than the leaves from before, earthy and dense. It fills more space, offering a small sense of satisfaction. Some researchers suggest that this kind of flexible sharing may have played a key role in human survival. Groups that cooperated even loosely could endure fluctuations in food availability more effectively than those that did not. You continue walking, the taste lingering briefly before fading. Hunger does not disappear. It simply softens. You begin to understand that this feeling is not something to eliminate, but something to live with. It rises and falls, guiding your attention, shaping your movement, but never fully leaving. The land ahead becomes more open again, with fewer plants and more exposed ground. Your pace adjusts slightly, your body responding to the lack of immediate opportunity. You feel the sun more directly now. There is less shade, less relief. You shift your posture, subtly angling your body to reduce exposure, though you do not think about it in those terms. It is simply a natural response. A faint sound reaches your ears. You pause. It is distant, irregular, perhaps movement, perhaps something breaking through the grass. You remain still for a moment listening. Others nearby do the same. This shared pause is not planned, not coordinated through speech, yet it happens together. Awareness spreads through the group like a quiet signal. After a moment, the sound fades. No immediate threat. You move again. Experts continue to examine how early humans balanced risk and reward in situations like this. Stopping too often could slow movement and waste energy, but ignoring potential danger could be far more costly. The ability to respond appropriately without overreacting would have been essential. You walk on. The ground beneath your feet feels harder now, more compact. Small cracks appear in the surface, signs of dryness. The landscape shifts gradually, almost imperceptibly, yet enough to change how you move through it. You notice how your body has adapted to this rhythm, walking, pausing, searching, eating, repeating. There is a simplicity to it, but not an ease. Every action carries weight. Every decision, even unspoken, matters. And yet there is no sense of stress in the way you might experience it today. No future to worry about, no past to revisit in detail. Only the present shaped by immediate need. You glance at the others. Their movements mirror your own in subtle ways. Bending, rising, scanning, stepping. Each person follows their own path yet remains connected to the group. This balance between independence and cooperation is quiet but powerful. Some scholars believe that this dynamic may have laid the foundation for later social structures. The ability to function both individually and collectively would become a defining trait of human societies. You continue forward, the sun now beginning its slow shift toward the afternoon. Time passes, though it is not marked. Hunger remains, but it no longer feels unfamiliar. It is part of the landscape, part of you, a steady companion that shapes your awareness without overwhelming it. And as you move through this open, changing world, you begin to sense something deeper beneath it all. A quiet endurance, not dramatic, not visible in a single moment, but built over countless days like this. Days of searching, days of moving, days of living with just enough. This is how life continues here. Not through abundance, but through persistence. Through the ability to keep going even when nothing feels certain. And you walk on, guided by that same quiet force, carrying with you the steady presence of hunger, not as a burden, but as part of the rhythm that keeps you moving forward. You continue walking until the light begins to soften once again, the long arc of the day slowly folding into evening. The warmth that rested on your skin through the afternoon now starts to lift, replaced by a cooler touch that settles gently across the land. There is no announcement, no clear signal, just a gradual shift that you feel before you fully notice. Your steps slow, not because you are tired in a way that demands rest, but because something within you recognizes what is coming. Night returns just as it did before, steady and certain. You glance toward the sky. The brightness fades and the first hints of dimness gather along the edges of the horizon. The wide openness of the land begins to soften its details, blending into broader shapes. The group adjusts as well. Movement becomes more contained. Distances between individuals shorten slightly. No one speaks, yet the pattern is familiar. A place to rest must be found again. Early human groups likely selected resting areas based on small advantages in the landscape. Slight elevation, nearby rocks or natural barriers could offer minimal protection from wind or passing animals. Even a small difference could matter over the course of a night. You step toward a low stretch of ground where the land dips gently. A few scattered stones rise nearby, forming a loose boundary. It is not shelter in any modern sense, but it offers something. You lower yourself, slowly feeling the ground beneath you. It is firmer than before, with fewer loose stones pressing against your body. You adjust your position instinctively, searching for a place that feels stable. Around you, others settle in similar ways. There is no arrangement, no assigned space. Each person finds a position guided by comfort and proximity. The group remains loosely connected, close enough to sense one another, far enough to move if needed. The light continues to fade. Shadows deepen. The sky shifts toward darker tones, and soon the first stars begin to appear once more. You lie back, your gaze moving upward. The sky here feels endless. Without artificial light, without interruption, the stars stretch across the darkness in a way that feels almost overwhelming. They're steady, silent, unchanging. You watch them for a moment. There is no story attached to them, yet no meaning beyond what you see. And still something about their presence holds your attention. Some researchers suggest that early humans may have noticed recurring patterns in the night sky, long before they understood them. Others believe that these observations required more developed symbolic thinking, which would come later. The exact moment when the sky became something more than light remains uncertain. A faint breeze moves across the land. It is cooler now, carrying the subtle chill of night. You feel it along your arms, your face, your neck. Your body responds, drawing inward, slightly conserving warmth. You shift closer to the others, not consciously seeking comfort, but moving with the quiet logic of shared heat. Bodies near one another create a small difference in temperature enough to matter. This closeness is not discussed. It simply happens. A detail that often goes unspoken is how much survival during this period depended on these small, unplanned adjustments. There were no systems, no strategies written out, only responses shaped by experience and repeated over time. You close your eyes briefly. Sleep begins to come, but not fully. Your body relaxes, yet your awareness remains close to the surface. Sounds still reach you even in rest. A shift in the grass, a distant call. The subtle movement of others nearby. This is not deep, uninterrupted sleep. It is something lighter, more cautious. Modern studies of sleep suggest that in environments without artificial light or secure shelter, humans may naturally adopt segmented sleep patterns. Periods of rest are broken by moments of wakefulness, allowing for continued awareness of surroundings. You drift for a short time, then return. Your eyes open again, adjusting quickly to the darkness. The shapes around you are faint but familiar enough. You recognize the outline of a nearby figure, the curve of the ground, the faint horizon beyond. Time passes, though it does not feel measured, only experienced in fragments. You shift, slightly adjusting your position. The ground presses against you in new ways, small discomforts that you accept without resistance. There is no expectation of ease here. And yet there is a kind of calm, a quiet acceptance of the conditions. You listen again. The sounds of the night have settled into a steady pattern. Nothing sudden, nothing urgent. Just the ongoing presence of life moving through darkness. Some scholars propose that this constant exposure to natural night cycles shaped early human perception of time and rest. Without artificial boundaries, sleep and wakefulness blended into a more fluid experience. You breathe slowly. The air feels cooler with each passing moment. Your body adjusts. Gradually, you notice how your thoughts do not linger. There are no long reflections, no extended planning. Each moment arrives, is experienced, and then fades. Awareness remains close to the present, anchored in sensation rather than memory. You open your eyes once more, looking up at the sky. The stars remain unchanged, distant, and yet always there. You feel the presence of the group around you, not through sight, but through subtle cues. Breathing, movement, shared space. This is how you rest. Not alone, not fully asleep, but within a quiet network of awareness that extends beyond yourself. And as the night deepens, you settle further into this rhythm, a balance between stillness and attention, between rest and readiness. A way of sleeping that belongs entirely to this world, shaped by its demands, its limits, and its quiet, unspoken rules. You remain there beneath the vast sky, carried gently through the night in fragments of rest, each one brief, each one enough. You wake again in fragments, the night slowly loosening its grip as the horizon begins to pale. The darkness has not disappeared, but it feels thinner now, less complete. A faint glow stretches across the edge of the world, soft and quiet, as if morning is arriving carefully not to disturb what remains of the night. Your body shifts before your thoughts do. A small movement, a breath that deepens, muscles adjusting against the ground. Around you, others begin to stir in similar ways, not all at once, not in any coordinated rhythm, but gradually. One person sits up, another rolls slightly to the side. Someone else remains still a little longer. There is no clear beginning to the day. It unfolds. You open your eyes fully, the dim light revealing shapes that were only shadows before. The ground, the stones, the outlines of those around you. Everything returns slowly, as if the world itself is waking. You sit up, brushing your hands lightly against the earth. It feels cool, though not as cold as the night before. The air carries a gentle freshness, something clean and open. You listen. The sounds of morning begin quietly. A distant call. The soft movement of insects. The faint rustle of grass as something passes through unseen. You rise to your feet. There is a pause. Not long, not deliberate, but present. And in that pause something subtle happens. You notice how individuals begin to look toward one another. A brief glance, a shift in posture, a moment of stillness that seems to connect everyone without effort. This is not communication in the way you know it, but it is not silence either. Many researchers believe that cooperation among early humans did not rely on complex language but on shared attention and mutual awareness. The ability to read small signals to sense intention may have been enough to guide group behavior. You see someone move toward a nearby patch of ground where the soil appears slightly disturbed. Others follow not because they were told to, but because the movement itself carries meaning. You walk with them. The ground here is softer, easier to dig. Fingers press into the soil, pulling gently, uncovering something hidden beneath. Roots. Small, firm, coated in dirt. Food again. Simple. Necessary. You kneel, joining in. Your hands move through the soil, feeling for resistance, for shape. You pull one free, brushing it lightly before bringing it closer. The taste is familiar now. Earthy. Slightly bitter. Enough. A detail often noted by archaeologists is that gathering activities like this may have been central to early human survival, sometimes even more reliable than hunting. While hunting required coordination and carried risk, gathering provided a steady if modest source of nourishment. You eat slowly, not because there is time to spare, but because there is no reason to rush. Nearby, another individual has found something different. A cluster of small fruits hanging low on a thin branch. They reach up, pulling them free, examining them briefly before eating. You watch for a moment, then move closer. There is no hesitation in sharing space. You take one, feeling its soft surface between your fingers. It tastes slightly sweet, a small difference, but noticeable. Moments like this bring a quiet variation to the rhythm of survival. Not abundance, not excess, but enough change to be felt. Some scholars suggest that these small shared experiences may have strengthened early social bonds. Eating together, even without conversation, creates a form of connection that goes beyond simple survival. You rise again, the group already beginning to shift. Movement resumes, slowly, naturally. You walk alongside them, your steps falling into place without effort. The sun begins to rise, its light spreading more fully across the land. Warmth follows, gentle at first, then more present. The coolness of morning fades, replaced by a familiar balance. You notice how the group stays close, but not tightly gathered. There is space between individuals, yet a clear sense of connection remains. A quieter observation, often made by researchers, is that early human cooperation did not necessarily require strict structure. Instead, it may have emerged from repeated interaction, from familiarity built over time. You glance at those around you. Their movements are predictable in a subtle way. Not identical, but consistent enough to feel known. You begin to anticipate small actions. A pause before bending. A shift before turning. A glance before moving. This is something new. Not entirely new, but becoming clearer. The ability to sense others. To adjust. To move together without needing to explain. Some experts believe that this growing sensitivity to social cues played a major role in human evolution. As groups became more coordinated, their ability to survive improved. You continue walking. The land stretches ahead unchanged in its openness, yet always slightly different in its details. You notice a slight rise in the ground, and as you move over it, the view ahead shifts. A wider stretch of grassland opens before you dotted with distant shapes. Animals again, grazing, moving slowly. You watch them briefly. There is no immediate reaction from the group. No sudden change, only awareness. The presence of animals does not always lead to action. Sometimes it is enough to observe, to understand patterns, to wait for a better moment. You continue forward. The rhythm remains steady. Step, pause, observe, adjust. And within this rhythm, something continues to grow. Not something you can name, not something you fully understand, but something that connects each individual to the others in a deeper way. A quiet thread of cooperation, of shared experience, of mutual awareness. It does not stand out. It does not announce itself. But it is there. And over time it will become one of the most important parts of what it means to be human. You walk on the sun rising higher, the land unfolding ahead, carrying with you this subtle shift, this quiet beginning of something larger, something that will shape everything that comes after. You continue forward across the open land, the steady warmth of the sun now fully returned. The morning has settled into something calm and predictable, though nothing here is ever truly certain. Each step feels familiar, yet every moment holds the possibility of change. The ground stretches wide, broken only by scattered patches of grass and the occasional rise of stone. The air feels dry again, carrying faint traces of dust that shift gently with each movement. You notice the animals before anyone reacts. At first they are distant shapes, barely distinguishable from the land itself, but as you move closer their forms become clearer. Large bodies, slow movements, heads lowered as they graze. They are calm, and yet their presence changes something. You slow your steps. Others do the same. The group does not stop completely, but movement becomes more careful, more deliberate. The space between you and the animals is maintained not through a conscious rule, but through shared awareness. Encounters like this were a regular part of early human life. Large animals dominated many prehistoric landscapes, and humans often existed alongside them, sometimes as observers, sometimes as opportunistic hunters, and sometimes as cautious competitors. You watch them quietly. Their size is noticeable. Their strength is clear. There is no thought of confrontation here. Not now. Instead there is attention, observation. You notice how they move as a group, loosely connected, each individual maintaining its own space while remaining part of something larger. Their rhythm is slow, unhurried, almost echoing your own. A subtle point often highlighted by researchers is that early humans may have learned a great deal simply by watching animals. Patterns of movement, feeding habits, responses to danger. These observations could inform decisions without the need for structured explanation. You shift your weight slightly, adjusting your stance. The ground beneath you feels firm, stable. Your breathing remains steady. There is no tension in your body, only readiness. One of the animals lifts its head. For a moment its gaze moves in your direction. You remain still, not frozen but quiet. The distance between you is enough. After a brief pause it lowers its head again, returning to its slow, steady feeding. The moment passes. The group continues moving. You follow. There is no discussion of what just happened, no need to reflect on it. The encounter becomes part of the ongoing flow, another small piece of experience added without being stored in words. Some researchers suggest that this kind of interaction shaped early human awareness of risk. Not every encounter required action. Sometimes the safest choice was to observe and continue conserving energy for moments that truly mattered. You walk on the animals, gradually fading behind you. The land ahead opens again, wide and quiet. The sun continues its slow climb, casting light evenly across everything. Shadows shorten, details sharpen. You feel the warmth against your skin more direct now. You adjust your posture slightly, your body responding without thought. A faint sound reaches you. Different this time. Sharper. Closer. You pause. Others pause as well. The source is not immediately visible. You listen carefully. A quick movement in the grass. Small. Fast. Your attention narrows. This is different from the large animals before. This is something closer, more immediate. You move slowly toward the sound. Your steps control your weight, shifting carefully to avoid sudden noise. A small animal darts into view, then stops briefly, its body tense. You remain still. This moment feels different. Not observation, opportunity. In early human life, encounters like this could provide valuable food, though success was never guaranteed. Small animals were more difficult to catch, requiring quick reactions and careful timing. You hold your position. Your breathing slows. The animal moves again just slightly. You react. Your body moves before thought forms a quick step forward, a reach. But the animal is faster. It disappears into the grass, gone almost instantly. You stop. The moment ends. There is no frustration, no lingering reaction, only a return to stillness. This is how it is. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you do not. The difference is accepted without resistance. A quieter observation often noted by experts is that early humans likely developed a high tolerance for uncertainty. Success was never constant, and failure did not carry the same emotional weight it might today. It was simply part of the process. You step back, rejoining the group. Movement resumes. The rhythm returns. Step. Pause. Observe. Continue. The brief moment fades, becoming part of the larger flow of the day. You notice how quickly your awareness shifts again from focused attention back to a broader sense of the environment. The land stretches ahead. The sky remains clear. Time moves forward, though it is not counted. And within this steady movement, something else continues to take shape. Experience, not stored in stories, not organized into lessons, but present, layered, carried quietly from one moment to the next. You walk on the warmth of the sun steady against your skin, the open landscape unfolding ahead, carrying with you these small encounters, these subtle shifts, each one shaping your understanding of the world in ways that do not need to be spoken. You continue forward, the steady rhythm of your steps carrying you across the open land as the day settles into its middle hours. The sun now sits high above, its warmth no longer gentle but firm, pressing evenly across your shoulders and back. The air feels still, with only the occasional breeze passing through too light to offer much relief. You notice how your body responds. Your pace slows slightly, not from exhaustion but from adjustment. Energy must be used carefully here. The ground beneath you has changed again. It feels drier, more compact, with small cracks running across its surface. Vegetation becomes sparse, scattered in thin clusters, rather than dense patches. Food is less visible here. You scan the land. Nothing stands out immediately. And so you keep moving. In prehistoric environments like this, seasonal and regional variation played a major role in shaping daily life. Some areas provided steady resources, while others required long stretches of travel with little reward. Movement was often the only response to scarcity. You glance toward the others. Their movements mirror your own, slower, more measured, attention-focused outward searching. There is no sign of concern, only quiet adaptation. A faint shift in the air catches your attention. It is subtle, barely noticeable, but different. You pause briefly, lifting your head slightly. The scent is dry, almost empty, lacking the richness of plant life or water. It tells you something without words. This place doesn't offer much. You continue forward, the group maintaining its loose formation. No one breaks away, no one rushes ahead. The shared understanding holds. A small rise appears ahead, a gentle slope leading upward. You move toward it, your steps steady, your body adjusting to the incline. At the top, the land opens again, wide, exposed. The horizon stretches uninterrupted, offering no immediate sign of change. You stand for a moment, not stopping completely, but slowing enough to take in the view. There is nothing obvious here, and yet something feels different. You notice the absence. No visible animals, no clusters of plants, no movement, just open space. Some researchers suggest that early humans likely developed an awareness of these less productive zones and moved through them quickly when possible. Others propose that even in sparse areas, knowledge of hidden resources could make a difference. You begin moving again, descending the slope. The ground feels harder now, the texture shifting beneath your feet. Each step sends a faint sensation upward, a reminder of the surface you walk on. The sun continues to press down. You feel it along your arms, your neck, your face. There is no escape from it here. You adjust again your movements, becoming slightly more economical, reducing unnecessary effort. A detail often overlooked is how much early humans depended on this kind of physical awareness. Knowing when to slow down, when to conserve energy, and when to push forward could determine whether a group remained strong or weakened over time. You notice someone ahead pause briefly, bending toward the ground. You move closer, your attention drawn to the same spot. A small patch of disturbed soil. Subtle, easy to miss. You crouch your fingers, brushing lightly across the surface. There is a difference here. You dig gently. The soil gives way more easily than expected. Beneath it something firm. You pull it free. A root, smaller than the ones you found earlier, but still useful. You bring it closer, brushing away the dirt. You eat. The taste is faint, almost neutral. But it is something. Others gather nearby, repeating the motion. This moment, small as it is, shifts the rhythm slightly. Where there was nothing, now there is a brief opportunity. Archaeological evidence suggests that early humans often relied on knowledge of hidden food sources like underground roots and tubers, which could remain available even in harsher conditions. This kind of resource required attention and experience to locate. You continue gathering for a short time. Then just as quietly the moment ends. The small patch offers only so much. The group begins to move again. You follow. The land ahead remains open, but your awareness has changed slightly. You look more closely now, not just at what is visible, but at what might be hidden. The sun begins its slow descent, though it is still high. Time passes. The rhythm continues. Step, pause, search, move. And within this repetition something deeper forms. Not memory in the way you understand it, but familiarity, a growing sense of how the land behaves, how certain places offer more than others, how subtle signs can reveal what is beneath the surface. Some scholars suggest that this kind of environmental awareness may have been one of the earliest forms of knowledge that humans carried across generations, not through language but through observation, imitation, and shared experience. You walk beside the others, your pace steady, your senses open. The world remains quiet, not empty, but calm. You notice how little changes from moment to moment, and yet how everything is always shifting in small ways. The position of the sun, the feel of the ground, the presence or absence of life. Each detail matters. Each detail guides you. And as you continue across this wide, dry stretch of land, you begin to understand something subtle. Survival here is not about control. It is about attention, about noticing what is there and what is not, about responding quietly and consistently to a world that does not explain itself. You move forward, carrying that awareness with you step by step as the day slowly unfolds. You continue across the open land, the long stretch of dry ground, gradually giving way to something softer beneath your feet. The change is subtle at first. The soil feels less rigid, the air carries a faint hint of moisture again, and small clusters of vegetation begin to appear more frequently. You notice it without needing to stop. The land is shifting, and with it your path begins to change. The group adjusts almost instinctively, angling slightly toward this new environment. There is no signal, no discussion, only a shared movement guided by quiet recognition. This is how early migrations begin, not as deliberate journeys with clear destinations, but as a series of small decisions, each one shaped by immediate conditions. Over time, these movements accumulate, carrying groups across vast distances without any single moment marking the beginning. You step forward, the ground now softer, leaving faint impressions beneath your feet. The air feels different here, cooler, more alive. The scent of plants is stronger, richer, filling the space around you. A well-supported idea among anthropologists is that early humans began expanding beyond parts of Africa during this broad period, though the exact timing and routes remain uncertain. These movements were likely gradual, occurring over many generations rather than within a single lifetime. You walk beside the others, your pace steady. There is no sense of leaving something behind, no awareness of crossing into new territory, only the continuation of movement. You notice a narrow stretch ahead where the land dips gently, forming a natural passage. The ground there is darker, more compact, with signs of repeated use. Small tracks cross over one another, some fresh, some fading. You follow the path. Others do the same. It feels easier here, the movement smoother, the terrain more forgiving. A detail often discussed by researchers is how natural pathways like this may have guided early human movement across landscapes. These routes, shaped by water flow, animal migration, or repeated use, could offer more efficient travel without being consciously chosen. You move through the passage, the walls of earth on either side rising slightly, creating a sense of enclosure. It is brief, but noticeable. The open expanse gives way to something more contained. Then, just as quickly, it opens again. Beyond the passage, the land spreads out into a broad area with more visible life. Plants grow in thicker patches and the ground holds more variation. Small dips, slight rises, scattered stones. You feel the difference. There is more here, more possibility. You slow slightly, your attention shifting downward, scanning the ground more carefully. Others do the same, their movements reflecting your own. A figure ahead pauses, crouching low. You move closer. They reach into a cluster of plants, pulling free a handful of small fruits. The colour stands out against the green, subtle but distinct. You watch. They bring one to their mouth, tasting. Then another. There is no hesitation. You join them, your fingers brushing against the leaves, searching for what they have found. You locate a few, pulling them free. The taste is light, slightly sweet. Enough to notice. A small moment, but meaningful. Archaeological findings suggest that access to diverse plant life played an important role in early human expansion. Areas with a wider range of edible resources could support longer stays and reduce the need for constant movement. You continue gathering for a short time, then rise again. The group begins to spread slightly, each person moving through the space, exploring in quiet ways. There is no need to stay tightly together here. The environment offers more. You walk a short distance away, your steps slow, your attention focused. You notice how your awareness shifts in places like this. Less urgency, more exploration. You touch the leaves of another plant, feeling their texture. Some are soft, others firm, each one different. A softer detail that often goes unnoticed is how tactile interaction with the environment may have contributed to early human learning. Touch, smell, taste, all working together to build understanding without words. You hear a sound behind you. You turn. The group has begun to move again, slowly reforming into a loose line. The moment of gathering has passed. The rhythm resumes. You follow. The land ahead continues to change in small ways. More plants, more variation, more signs of life. The air remains steady, carrying a faint coolness that feels different from the dry stretches before. Some researchers propose that these kinds of environments acted as natural corridors for early human movement, guiding populations toward new regions over long periods of time. Others suggest that migration patterns were more complex, influenced by a combination of climate shifts and resource availability. You walk on. The sun begins its slow descent once more, though there is still light enough to continue. Shadows lengthen, stretching across the uneven ground. You notice how your body responds to these cycles without needing to measure them. Movement during light, rest during darkness. A simple rhythm repeated day after day. And yet something about this place feels different. Not entirely new, but not entirely familiar either. You are moving through space that holds both recognition and uncertainty. A threshold of sorts, not marked by any clear boundary, but present. You step forward, the ground soft beneath your feet. the air steady around you, the group moving quietly beside you. And you realize that this is how expansion happens, not through sudden change, but through gradual movement, through small shifts in direction, through the quiet following of opportunity. You continue not knowing where the path leads, only that it leads somewhere, and that is enough. You continue along the shifting land, the softer ground gradually giving way to something more uneven beneath your feet. Small stones begin to appear again, scattered across the surface, forcing your steps to become more deliberate. The air feels slightly cooler here. Not cold, just different. You notice it first along your arms, then in your breath. A faint dryness returns, though not as strong as before. The environment is changing once more, slowly, guiding your movement without ever making it obvious. The group adjusts without hesitation. Your path angles upward, leading toward a stretch of rising ground. It's not steep, but it requires more effort. Your step shortens slightly, your weight shifting forward as you climb. There is no pause, only continuation. Early human populations did not move through easy terrain alone. Evidence from fossil sites and migration studies shows that groups crossed a wide range of landscapes, including hills, rocky outcrops, and eventually mountainous regions. Movement was shaped by necessity, not comfort. You place your foot carefully on a flat section of stone, testing its stability before shifting your weight. The texture is rough beneath your skin, offering grip. Each step matters more here. You notice how your body adapts. Balance sharpens. Awareness narrows. Your gaze stays closer to the ground, scanning for stable footing. A quieter observation often made by researchers is that early humans likely developed strong physical coordination through constant interaction with varied terrain. Walking was not passive. It required attention, adjustment, and control. You reach a slightly higher point where the land opens briefly. The view stretches outward. Behind you, the ground you crossed earlier appears distant, flattened by perspective. Ahead, the terrain grows more complex. Larger stones, uneven surfaces, and narrow paths begin to form. You move forward. The group spreads slightly, each person choosing their own path through the rocks, yet remaining within sight of one another. There is no fixed route, only options. You step between two larger stones, your foot landing on a narrow strip of ground. You shift your weight carefully, maintaining balance. The air carries a faint new scent. Stone, dry, almost metallic. It is subtle but present. You continue climbing. The sun remains steady above, though its warmth feels less direct now. The higher ground catches more wind, and a light breeze moves across your skin, offering brief relief. You notice how your breathing changes, slightly deeper, slightly more frequent. The effort is small but noticeable. You pass a section where the rocks form a loose barrier rising just enough to create a sense of enclosure. You move along its edge, your hand brushing lightly against the surface. The stone feels warm from the sun, its texture rough and uneven. Marks appear across it. Not deliberate, not shaped with intention, but present. Scratches, lines, the result of contact over time. Some researchers propose that repeated interaction with natural surfaces like this may have contributed to early awareness of material properties. Stonewood plant fibers, each one offering different possibilities. You move on. The path narrows briefly, forcing you to step more carefully. One foot placed ahead of the other, your body aligned with the space. Below the ground drops slightly. Not far, but enough to notice. You feel your body respond to your balance, tightening your movements, becoming more precise. Then just as quickly the path widens again. The tension fades. You continue. The group regathers slightly as the terrain becomes less demanding. Movement becomes smoother again, though still attentive. You notice how quickly your body shifts between these states. Effort, ease, focus, flow. This constant adjustment becomes part of your rhythm. Not something you think about, but something you feel. A lesser-known point sometimes discussed by specialists is that navigating complex terrain may have influenced cognitive development, encouraging spatial awareness, planning, and problem-solving even in simple forms. You step over a larger rock, your foot landing on firm ground beyond it. The land begins to level out, gradually. The uneven surfaces give way to something more stable. You feel the difference immediately. Your steps lengthen. Your posture relaxes slightly. The effort of climbing fades. You glance toward the others. Their movements reflect the same shift. Less tension, more flow. The environment has changed again. You move forward into this new stretch. The ground steady beneath you, the air calmer. The sun begins its slow descent, though there is still light enough to continue. Shadows stretch longer across the rocks, creating patterns that shift with each step. You notice them briefly, then move on. The land ahead opens once more, offering space, possibility, and quiet continuation. And within this movement, something becomes clearer. The world does not remain the same. It changes, gradually, constantly, and you change with it. Your body adjusts. Your awareness shifts. Your movement adapts, not through instruction, not through planning, but through experience, step by step. You continue forward, leaving the higher ground behind, carrying with you the subtle imprint of this place, not as a memory in words, but as something quieter, something felt, something that will shape how you move through the world even if you never stop to think about it. You move down from the uneven ground, your steps easing as the terrain becomes more forgiving again. The scattered rocks thin out, replaced by softer soil and low stretches of grass that brush lightly against your legs. The effort of climbing fades from your body, leaving behind a quiet steadiness. The air feels balanced here. Not too dry, not too cool, just enough to settle into. You continue with the group, your pace falling naturally into rhythm once more. The land opens wide ahead, familiar in its vastness, yet always holding something new beneath the surface. Then something changes. You notice it not through sight at first, but through a subtle shift in awareness. The group slows slightly, not stopping but becoming more attentive. You follow that feeling. Your gaze lifts, and there in the distance you see movement. At first it seems like any other group, shapes crossing the land steady and calm. As you look closer, something feels different. Their posture, their movement, not entirely the same. You slow your steps. Others do the same. The distance remains, but the awareness sharpens. These are not animals. They are like you, but not exactly. Encounters between different human species are believed to have occurred during this long stretch of time. Fossil evidence shows that Homo sapiens shared the world with other human relatives such as Neanderthals and Denisovans, though the nature of these interactions is still being explored. You watch carefully. They move in a loose group, similar in size to your own. Their bodies appear slightly different, perhaps broader, perhaps more compact. It is difficult to tell at this distance, yet the difference is there. You feel it, not as fear, not as curiosity in the way you might describe it, but as attention. Focused, quiet. The group around you maintains its distance. No one moves closer. No one turns away. You remain where you are observing. A quieter detail often discussed by researchers is that early human encounters may not have always led to conflict. In many cases, groups could have simply avoided one another, maintaining space and continuing on separate paths. The figures in the distance pause briefly. One of them turns slightly, their gaze shifting in your direction. You hold still. The moment stretches, not tense, but significant. There is no language to bridge the space between you. No shared words, only presence. Some experts suggest that early humans may have been able to recognize differences between groups through physical appearance, movement, or subtle cues. Others propose that such distinctions may not have been fully understood in the way we imagine. The truth remains unclear. You continue to watch. The other group begins to move again, angling slightly away. Not abruptly, not in retreat, but in quiet decision. Your group does not follow. You remain where you are. The distance increases slowly. The figures become smaller, less distinct. Then gradually they blend into the landscape, becoming part of the open space once more. The moment passes, and yet something lingers. You feel it. A quiet recognition, not of difference alone, but of something shared. Movement, awareness, life carried across the same land. You begin walking again, the rhythm returning as naturally as it faded. The group adjusts, spreading slightly as the tension dissolves. No one looks back. There is no need. Some researchers believe that interactions like this may have shaped the course of human evolution in subtle ways. Contact between different groups could have led to exchange avoidance, or even interbreeding over long periods of time. Others suggest that many encounters left no trace at all, disappearing into the vast silence of history. You move forward, the land stretching ahead, the sky clear above. The sun continues its slow descent, casting longer shadows across the ground. You notice how your awareness shifts again. The sharp focus of the encounter softens. Familiar rhythm returns. Step, pause, observe, continue, and yet something has changed. Not dramatically, not in a way you can name, but quietly. You have seen something beyond your own group, something that reflects you and differs from you. A reminder that this world is larger than your immediate experience, larger than your path, larger than your understanding. You walk on carrying that awareness with you, not as a thought, but as a feeling that settles somewhere beneath the surface, a subtle expansion, a widening of the world. And as the distance between you and that other group fades completely, you return to the quiet continuity of your own movement, the land unfolding ahead unchanged, and yet somehow different. You continue walking after the distant figures disappear, the land returning to its quiet openness. The brief encounter fades behind you, yet a subtle awareness remains, something you carry without fully understanding. The group spreads slightly again, settling back into a familiar rhythm. Distance between individuals grows just enough to allow movement, yet never so far that connection is lost. The air feels steady. The ground beneath you is even. The world once again becomes simple, and yet beneath that simplicity something more delicate begins to take shape. You notice how often your attention moves toward the others. A shift in their pace, a slight turn of the head, a pause before stepping. These small signals guide you even when you're not fully aware of following them. This is not control, not leadership, but coordination, a growing balance between individual movement and shared awareness. Studies of early human groups suggest that survival often depended on this kind of flexible cooperation. Without rigid hierarchy, groups could adapt quickly, responding to changes in the environment or unexpected situations. You step over a shallow dip in the ground, your foot landing firmly on the other side. The movement feels automatic now, your body adjusting without effort. Nearby someone slows. You notice it immediately. Their posture changes slightly, their gaze lowering toward the ground. You slow as well. Others do the same. The group responds not through command, but through observation. You move closer. They have found something. A patch of disturbed earth, small but noticeable. You crouch, your fingers brushing lightly against the surface. The soil is loose. You dig. A root emerges, larger than the ones you found before. You pull it free, feeling its weight in your hand. You bring it closer, brushing away the dirt. You eat. The taste is stronger, more filling. It spreads slowly, offering a quiet sense of satisfaction. Others gather, repeating the motion. For a short time, the group concentrates here, sharing the space without conflict. A detail often highlighted in research is that early human cooperation did not require strict rules to function. Shared need and repeated interaction could create a natural balance where individuals worked alongside one another without constant competition. You continue gathering until the patch offers no more. Then, just as quietly, movement resumes. You rise, your body adjusting back into motion. The land ahead remains open, stretching in all directions. You walk, step by step. The sun begins to lower, its light softening slightly. Shadows grow longer again. Time moves forward, though it is not counted. You notice how the group maintains its spacing. Not too close, not too far. Each person aware of the others without needing to look constantly. This balance creates something steady, reliable, a quiet system that holds together without needing to be defined. Some researchers suggest that this kind of loose structure may have been an early form of social organization. Not fixed roles, not formal leadership, but a shared understanding of how to move, when to pause, and how to respond. You continue forward your pace even. The air begins to cool slightly as the afternoon shifts toward evening. You feel it along your skin, subtle at first, then more noticeable. Your body adjusts again, always adjusting. You notice a small movement to your left. You turn your head. A figure from your group moves slightly ahead, then slows, allowing another to pass. There is no conflict, no tension, just movement shifting naturally to maintain flow. This quiet adaptability becomes more visible the longer you observe it. Each person moves independently, yet the group remains connected. Some experts propose that this ability to function both as individuals and as part of a group became one of the defining traits of human survival. Too much separation would weaken the group. Too much closeness would limit flexibility. You walk beside them feeling this balance without needing to explain it. The land continues to unfold. The sky remains clear. The sun lowers further, and within this steady movement, something deeper continues to grow. Not something you can see, not something you can name, but something present, a kind of understanding, not formed through language, not stored in memory as a story, but carried through experience, through repetition, through quiet interaction. You step forward, your foot landing softly on the ground. The rhythm continues. Step. Pause. Observe. Continue. And as you move through this calm shifting world, you begin to realize that survival here is not only about finding food or avoiding danger. It is about connection, about sensing others, about adjusting moment by moment to maintain balance, a balance that does not draw attention to itself, but holds everything together. You walk on the fading light, stretching across the land, the group moving beside you, each individual separate and yet part of something shared, a quiet harmony, fragile but enduring. You continue forward as the light softens the long stretch of the day, slowly easing toward evening once more. The warmth of the sun begins to fade from your skin, replaced by a cooler, more neutral air that settles gently around you. The land remains open, familiar, and yet something about this moment feels quieter than before. Not empty, but still. You walk with the group, your steps steady, your awareness relaxed but present. The rhythm continues as it always does, yet your attention drifts slightly, settling on the space behind you, on what is no longer there. You think of the distant figures from earlier, not in words, not as a clear memory, but as a fading impression. They were there, now they are not, and the land has returned to its usual calm as if nothing had happened at all. This quiet disappearance carries something subtle, a sense of absence. In the long span of human history, many groups and even entire human species vanished without leaving clear traces. Fossil records show that while Homo sapiens survived, others gradually disappeared, often without a single identifiable cause. You continue walking the ground beneath your feet, softening slightly as the air cools further. You notice how easily presence turns into absence here. An animal seen one day may not appear again. A path followed once may never be found again. And as you have just experienced, even other groups can pass through your awareness and then fade completely. You step over a patch of uneven ground, your body adjusting without effort. The group remains steady around you. No one turns back. No one searches for what has gone. Movement continues. A lesser-known point raised in research is that the disappearance of early human populations may not always have been sudden or dramatic. In many cases, it likely happened gradually through small changes in environment competition for resources or shift in climate. You walk on the fading light stretching across the land. The sky begins to shift towards softer tones, the brightness of day slowly giving way to the calm of evening. You notice the others. Their movements remain consistent, unaffected. Life continues in the present. This moment, this step, this breath. Some scholars propose that early humans may not have held onto absence in the way we do today. Without structured memory or storytelling, what was gone simply became part of the past without lingering in the same way. Others suggest that even without language, there may have been a sense of loss, subtle and unspoken, carried through behavior rather than thought. The answer is not clear. You feel the air cool further. A faint breeze moves across the land, carrying with it the quiet shift of evening. You adjust your posture, your body responding naturally. The ground beneath you feels stable. The rhythm continues. Step, pause, observe, continue. And within this repetition, the sense of disappearance settles into something quieter. Not unsettling, not heavy, just present. A part of the world. You notice how the land itself holds no memory. There are no marks where the other group stood. No signs of their passing. Only the same open space. Unchanged. A quiet detail often overlooked is how little of early human life was preserved in the physical world. Without permanent structures, without written records, most moments left no lasting trace. You walk through that same space now, where they once were, where nothing remains. The sun lowers further, the light becoming softer, more diffused. Shadows stretch longer, blending into one another. The world begins to quiet again. You feel it. The transition. Day to night. Presence to absence. Movement to rest. You continue forward the group, moving with you, each person maintaining that quiet balance between independence and connection. And as the light fades, you begin to understand something deeper. That this world is not built on permanence. It is built on change, on appearance and disappearance, on moments that exist briefly then fade. And yet within that constant change, something continues. Something endures. Not in the form of individuals, not in the form of specific groups, but in the ongoing movement of life itself. You walk on the last light of day, settling across the land, carrying with you this quiet awareness. That what is here now may not be here tomorrow, and yet the rhythm continues, unbroken, step by step, through presence, through absence, through time that leaves no clear trace behind. You continue moving as the day fades, the last warmth of sunlight slipping gently from your skin. The air grows cooler with each step, and the light softens into a quiet glow that stretches across the land. Something feels different. Not in a sudden way, not something you can clearly see, but something you begin to notice over time. The air carries a faint sharpness now, a subtle dryness mixed with a cooler edge. It brushes against your face and arms in a way that feels unfamiliar compared to earlier days. You slow slightly. Your attention shifts outward. The land ahead looks the same at first glance. Open ground, scattered plants, distant shapes. But as you move, you notice small changes. The vegetation appears thinner. The soil feels slightly harder. The breeze carries less warmth. You step forward, your body adjusting quietly. Over long stretches of time during the Pleistocene epoch, the Earth's climate shifted repeatedly, between warmer and colder periods. These gradual changes shaped the environments early humans lived in, influencing where they could find food, water, and shelter. You continue walking the group, maintaining its steady rhythm. No one reacts strongly. There is no sudden awareness of change, only a quiet adaptation unfolding moment by moment. You notice how the wind feels different now. Not stronger, but cooler. It moves across the land with a subtle persistence, carrying with it a faint dryness that settles into your skin. You draw your arms slightly closer to your body. A small adjustment, almost unnoticeable, but meaningful. A lesser-known detail often discussed by scientists is that early climate shifts were not always dramatic in the moment. Instead, they unfolded gradually over generations, making them difficult to perceive within a single lifetime. You continue forward, your steps steady. The ground beneath you feels firmer now, less forgiving. Small cracks appear more frequently, spreading across the surface in thin lines. You step over them, your movements unchanged, and yet your awareness sharpens. You begin to notice how certain plants are no longer as common. The patches of green are smaller, more spaced apart. You scan the ground more carefully, searching, adjusting. The group spreads slightly, each person responding in their own way, though the overall rhythm remains intact. Some experts suggest that early humans responded to environmental changes primarily through movement. When resources became less available in one area, groups gradually shifted toward regions that offered more. You walk on. The sky above begins to change colour, the soft light of evening settling in more fully. The sun lowers its warmth, fading further. The air cools again, more noticeably now. You feel it along your face, your hands, your shoulders. It is not uncomfortable, but it is present. You shift your posture again, conserving warmth without thinking. Nearby, someone pauses briefly, bending toward the ground. You move closer. A small cluster of plants, thinner than before, less abundant. They gather what they can. You do the same. The food is less, but still there. You eat slowly, the taste familiar but less satisfying. A quiet reminder. The land is changing. A point sometimes emphasized in research is that even slight reductions in food availability could have long-term effects on early human populations. These changes might not be noticeable day by day, but over time they could influence survival and movement patterns. You rise again, the group already beginning to move. There is no hesitation, no lingering, only continuation. You walk forward, the light fading further, the air cooling steadily. The land stretches ahead, unchanged in its openness, yet different in its details. You notice how your body responds more quickly now to the cooler air. A slight tightening, a subtle shift in movement. Your awareness remains calm, but more alert. The breeze moves again, carrying with it a faint chill that settles deeper than before. You feel it, not as a threat, but as a change. Some researchers propose that these gradual cooling periods eventually led to the development of ice ages reshaping entire landscapes over long spans of time. Glaciers formed, temperatures dropped, and ecosystems shifted in response. You continue walking, the group steady beside you. The sun dips lower, the light becoming softer, more distant. Shadows stretch across the ground, blending into one another. The world begins to quiet again. You feel the transition. Day to night, warmth to cool, familiar to slightly unfamiliar. And within that shift, something else begins to take hold. Adaptation. Not conscious, not planned, but constant. You draw closer to the others as the air cools further, your body responding to the subtle need for shared warmth. The rhythm continues. Step, pause, observe, continue. And as the last light of day fades, you realize that this change is not temporary. Not something that will pass quickly. It is part of a larger movement, a slow reshaping of the world, one that you cannot fully see, but one that you are already beginning to live within. You walk on into the cooling evening, the land quiet beneath your feet, the air shifting gently around you, carrying with it the first faint signs of a colder world ahead. You move forward into the fading light, the air now carrying a clearer chill than before. It rests lightly on your skin at first, then lingers, no longer passing quickly. The warmth of the day slips away more completely, leaving behind a cooler, steadier atmosphere. You feel it in your breathing, in your hands, in the way your body begins to draw inward without instruction. The group shifts as well, distances close slightly. Movements become more contained. There is no signal, yet the adjustment happens together, shaped by the same quiet need. The land around you reflects the change. The vegetation appears thinner than it did before. The ground feels firmer, less forgiving. The breeze moves across the surface with a sharper edge, carrying less moisture and more dryness. You step carefully, your attention settling closer to the present moment. Survival in colder conditions required early humans to adapt in ways that went beyond simple movement. Changes in behavior, shelter use, and social interaction became increasingly important as temperatures dropped over time. You lower yourself toward a shallow depression in the ground, choosing a place that offers even the slightest protection from the wind. Others do the same, gathering in a loose cluster. There is no shelter here in the way you might imagine. No constructed walls. No roof, only the land itself. And yet even small features matter. A slight dip, a group of stones, anything that breaks the wind. You sit your body close to the ground. The chill rises slowly through you, not sudden but persistent. You shift your position, drawing your limbs closer, conserving warmth. Nearby, someone adjusts a piece of animal skin around their shoulders. It is simple, loosely placed, not shaped with precision, but it helps. You notice it. You adjust your own position, slightly leaning closer to others. A detail sometimes highlighted in research is that body heat sharing may have played a significant role in survival during colder periods. Staying close to others could make a meaningful difference during long cold nights. The light fades further. The sky deepens. Night approaches again. But this night feels different. Cooler. Sharper. You feel it in the air, in the ground, in the space between breaths. You lie down slowly, the earth firm beneath you. There is less warmth now. Less comfort. Your body responds by remaining more alert, more aware of every shift in temperature. You close your eyes briefly. Sleep comes lightly, more fragmented than before. You drift, then wake. The cycle repeats. A quieter observation often made by scientists is that colder conditions may have influenced how early humans structured their rest, leading to shorter, more frequent periods of sleep as the body responded to environmental stress. You open your eyes again. The sky above is clear, filled with stars that seem sharper against the darker air. The breeze moves again, cooler now, carrying a faint dryness that settles into your skin. You draw closer to the others, not out of fear, but necessity. Your breathing remains steady. Your awareness remains near the surface. You listen. The night sounds feel different, more distant, more sparse. The world seems quieter, as if the cold has slowed everything. You shift slightly, adjusting your position once more. The ground feels harder now, less forgiving, and yet you remain. This is how you adapt, not through sudden change, but through small adjustments. Repeated, refined. You pull your arms closer, your body conserving heat, your movements minimal. You notice how others do the same, each person responding in their own way yet following a similar pattern. Some experts suggest that these shared responses to environmental stress may have strengthened social bonds, reinforcing cooperation as a key survival strategy. You breathe slowly. The air feels cooler with each passing moment, but your body adjusts gradually. You drift again. Sleep comes in brief waves, not deep, but enough. Time passes, though it is not measured, only felt. The cold remains, but it becomes something you live within, not something that overwhelms you. You open your eyes once more, the stars still steady above, unchanged, distant. You feel the presence of the group around you, their warmth subtle but real. This is how you endure, not by escaping the cold, but by adapting to it, by finding small ways to remain steady within it. And as the night continues, you settle into that quiet endurance, your body adjusting your awareness, steady your place within the group, holding you in balance. A colder world is beginning to take shape, and you are already learning how to live within it. You wake slowly, the cold still present, though softened slightly by the faint return of light. The horizon begins to glow again, pale and distant, easing the darkness back without urgency. The air remains cool, brushing gently against your skin, but it no longer feels as sharp as it did during the deepest part of the night. You shift your body, feeling the firmness of the ground beneath you. There is a stiffness now, subtle, but noticeable. Your limbs respond more slowly at first, adjusting to movement after long stillness. You sit up, drawing in a deeper breath, letting the cool air settle into your chest. Around you, others begin to wake in similar ways. Small movements, gradual awareness, no sudden change, just the slow return of the day. You rise, brushing dust from your skin, your posture adjusting as your body warms through motion. The group gathers loosely, not in a circle, not in a line, but in a quiet proximity that feels familiar. The cold lingers, but you move through it. Over extended periods of cooling during the late Ice Age cycles, early humans developed ways to manage exposure, including the use of animal hides and simple coverings that provided insulation. These early forms of clothing were not tailored in the modern sense, but they offered meaningful protection. You notice the coverings more clearly now. Loose pieces of hide draped across shoulders, wrapped around torsos, sometimes held in place by hand rather than fastened. They're uneven, varied, shaped by use rather than design. You adjust your own positions, slightly mimicking what you see without thinking. A small shift, but it helps. The group begins to move again. The rhythm returns. Step. Pause. Observe. Continue. The ground beneath you feels colder than before, especially in shaded areas where the sun has not yet reached. You step into the light when possible, your body responding to the warmth as it slowly returns. A detail that often draws attention in research is how early humans likely used sunlight itself as a source of warmth, adjusting their movement and resting patterns to take advantage of it during colder periods. You walk alongside the others, your pace steady, your awareness open. The land ahead shows signs of change. The vegetation is thinner, more spaced apart. The soil appears firmer, less rich. You scan carefully, your attention narrowing as you search for food. A figure ahead pauses. You follow. They kneel near a cluster of low plants, their movements precise. You crouch beside them, your fingers brushing the ground. You dig gently. The soil resists more than before. You press harder. Finally something gives. A root emerges, smaller, more fragile. You bring it closer, brushing away the dirt. You eat. The taste is faint, less satisfying than before, but enough. You continue gathering what you can, though the yield is limited. A point sometimes emphasized by specialists is that as climates cooled, available plant resources in certain regions became less abundant, requiring early humans to adapt their diets and movement patterns accordingly. You rise again, the group already shifting forward. There is no pause, no hesitation, only continuation. You walk on the sun, climbing higher, its warmth slowly returning, though not as strong as it once felt. You notice how your body responds differently now, seeking light, avoiding shade, adjusting constantly. A quieter observation sometimes noted is how environmental pressure can shape behavior in subtle ways, guiding movement and decision-making without conscious awareness. You continue across the land, your steps steady. The air remains cool, though balanced now by the growing warmth of the sun. The rhythm holds, and yet something else begins to take shape. A change not in the environment, but in how you respond to it. You notice the coverings again. The way they are used, adjusted, held closer, not just as occasional protection, but as something more consistent. A growing reliance. Some researchers propose that the increasing use of animal hides may have marked an important step in human adaptation, allowing groups to move into colder regions that would otherwise have been difficult to survive. You pull your arms slightly closer to your body, adjusting your position once more. The movement feels natural, unplanned, and yet meaningful. You continue walking, the group steady beside you, each person adapting in their own way yet following a shared pattern. The land stretches ahead, quieter now, less abundant, but still offering enough to continue. You step forward, the ground firm beneath you, the air cool against your skin, the sun above steady but softer than before. And within this changing world you continue to adjust, not through sudden shifts, but through small repeated actions, each one building upon the last, each one shaping how you live within this colder, more demanding landscape. You walk on, carrying with you this quiet adaptation, this steady response to a world that is slowly changing one moment at a time. You continue walking as the sun begins its slow descent, the light softening once again across the land. The air remains cool, though the steady warmth of the day still lingers faintly against your skin. Each step feels familiar, yet something new begins to emerge within the rhythm of your movement. A faint scent reaches you, different from anything you have noticed before. You slow. Your head lifts slightly. The air carries a trace of something sharp, almost bitter, yet not unpleasant. It is subtle at first, easy to miss, but once noticed, it becomes difficult to ignore. You follow it. Others do the same. Without a word, the group angles slightly toward the source. The scent grows stronger. And then you see it, a thin line rising into the air. Soft, grey, uncertain, smoke. You pause, not out of fear, but out of something deeper, recognition, though you do not yet understand why. The group slows further. Attention sharpens. Every movement becomes more deliberate. Controlled use of fire is widely considered one of the most significant developments in human history, though its origins are complex and not fully clear. Evidence suggests that early humans may have encountered natural fires long before they learned to manage or create them. You step closer, carefully. The ground ahead is darker, marked by something that has changed it. Small patches of blackened earth spread outward from a central point. The air feels warmer here, slightly. You notice it immediately, a difference that stands out against the cooling surroundings. At the center, something glows faintly. Not bright, not steady, but alive in a quiet way. You stop. Your body holds still. The others gather nearby, forming a loose circle, each person maintaining a cautious distance. No one reaches forward. No one turns away. You watch. The glow shifts. A small movement. A flicker. Then stillness again. A lesser-known observation in research is that early human interaction with fire may have begun with curiosity and caution, rather than immediate use. Fire was not simply a tool. It was something unfamiliar, unpredictable, and powerful. You feel the warmth on your skin, faint, but real. The air around the glowing point moves differently. It feels lighter, more active, carrying the scent that first drew you here. You take a small step forward, then stop. The heat increases slightly. You feel it on your hands, your face. It is not painful, but it demands respect. Some researchers propose that early humans may have first encountered fire through natural events such as lightning strikes or wildfires, observing it from a distance before gradually interacting with it more directly. You crouch slowly, your gaze fixed on the glowing center. A small piece of material shifts, breaking apart into darker fragments. The glow fades slightly, then returns. It feels alive, not in the way of animals, but in its own way. You extend your hand slightly, then pull it back. Instinct holds you. You are not ready. Others mirror your movement. A step forward, a pause, a retreat. This shared hesitation reveals something important. Learning, not through instruction, but through observation and experience. You remain there for a time, watching, feeling, noticing. The warmth continues to reach you, offering something new. Relief, comfort, even in its faint state. You sit near the edge of the circle, your body angled toward the heat. The ground beneath you feels slightly warmer here. A small difference, but meaningful. Some experts suggest that the ability to maintain fire once achieved may have changed daily life in profound ways, extending waking hours, providing warmth and altering social behavior. You notice how the group remains close, closer than before, drawn not to each other alone but to this shared source of warmth. The space between individuals narrows. The circle forms more clearly. You feel it. A new kind of gathering, not based on movement, but on presence. You listen. The sound is faint, a soft crackling, irregular, gentle. It fills the space in a way that feels different from the usual sounds of the land. You remain there, your body slowly relaxing. The warmth reaches deeper now, easing the tension that the cold has built over time. You notice how your breathing changes. Slower, more even. The others remain as well, their movements quiet, their attention focused. Some researchers suggest that fire may have played a role in shaping early human social structures, creating a central point around which groups could gather, interact, and share time together. You sit feeling the heat, watching the faint glow. The light from it is soft, barely reaching beyond its immediate space, yet it changes everything. Darkness no longer feels as complete. The cold no longer feels as constant. A new balance begins to form. You do not understand it fully, but you feel it. The possibility, the change, beginning of something that will alter the course of human life in ways far beyond this moment. You remain there as the light fades further, the glow steady, the warmth gentle. And within this quiet circle something shifts. Not loudly, not suddenly, but deeply. A new relationship with the world. A new way of existing within it. You sit watching, feeling, learning as the first small presence of fire enters your life, not as something controlled, but as something discovered. You remain near the faint glow, your body turns slightly toward the warmth as the evening deepens around you. The air beyond the circle feels cooler now, more distant, while the space close to the embers holds a gentle heat that lingers against your skin. You shift your position, settling more comfortably. The ground here feels different, slightly warmer, softer in a way that comes not from the surface itself, but from the heat resting just above it. Others do the same. One by one, the group settles into a loose circle, each person finding a place that feels right, not too close, not too far. You notice how this arrangement forms naturally. No one directs it. No one shapes it. And yet it happens. A quiet gathering, centered not on movement, but on presence. This is something new. Before rest came wherever the land allowed it. Now there is a point to return to a place that holds warmth and light, however faint. Archaeological research suggests that once humans began to use fire more consistently, it changed patterns of daily life, especially during the evening hours. Time after sunset, once limited by darkness and cold, began to open into something different. You sit with the others, your attention drifting between the glow and the surrounding darkness. The sound reaches you first, a soft crackling. Irregular, gentle. It fills the quiet in a way that feels almost steady even though it constantly shifts. You listen. There is something calming in it. A rhythm that does not demand attention yet draws it. You glance toward the others. Their movements are slower now, more relaxed. Shoulders lower, posture softens. The constant alertness that marked earlier nights begins to ease just slightly. A subtle point sometimes raised by researchers is that fire may have provided not only physical warmth, but also a sense of security. Predators sensitive to light and heat may have kept their distance, allowing early humans to rest with a little less tension. You feel it. Not complete safety, but a shift, a small release. You extend your hands slightly toward the warmth. The heat touches your skin, gentle but clear. You turn your palms, feeling the difference between the side facing the glow and the side facing the night air. It is simple, yet remarkable. You lower your hands again, resting them against your body. The warmth remains. You notice how the group stays close, closer than before. Not because of the cold alone, but because of this shared space, this shared center. A quieter detail often discussed is how gatherings around fire may have encouraged longer periods of social interaction, even before complex language developed. Time spent together facing the same point could strengthen bonds in subtle ways. You sit in silence, yet it doesn't feel empty. There is presence here, shared attention, a collective stillness. You glance at the glow again. Small pieces shift, breaking apart, slowly revealing faint red beneath darker surfaces. You watch as a fragment collapses inward, the light dimming, then returning again in a softer form. It changes constantly, yet remains. You find your attention returning to it again and again. The flicker, the movement, the warmth. It holds something that feels important, even if you cannot explain why. Some scholars propose that the introduction of fire may have influenced early human perception of time, extending the day into the night, and creating new periods for activity and interaction. You feel it now. The night does not close in the same way. It lingers at the edges, held back even if only slightly. You lean back a little, your body relaxing further. The ground supports you. The warmth reaches you. The sounds of the night continue beyond the circle, but they feel more distant now, less immediate. You close your eyes briefly, not fully asleep, but resting. The crackling continues. The warmth remains. You drift for a moment, then return. Your eyes open again, drawn back to the glow. Others shift slightly, adjusting their positions, but no one leaves. This place holds you, not through force, but through something quieter, a shared understanding. A place of rest, a place of warmth, a place of light in the darkness. You notice how different this feels from previous nights. Before, rest was fragmented, shaped by cold and uncertainty. Now something has changed, not completely, but enough to be felt. A growing comfort, a subtle ease. Some experts suggest that repeated use of fire may have gradually altered human sleep patterns, allowing for longer, more stable periods of rest. You feel the beginning of that shift. Your body relaxes more deeply. Your breathing slows. The tension in your muscles fades. Not entirely, but more than before. You settle into the ground, the warmth reaching you, the sounds of the fire surrounding you. And as the night deepens, you remain within this circle held between light and darkness, between warmth and cool air, experiencing a new way of resting, that feels both unfamiliar and quietly essential. You drift again, carried gently by the steady presence of the fire, your body finding a new balance within its glow. You remain within the quiet circle, the faint glow of the embers still holding its place against the deepening night. The warmth has softened slightly, yet it continues to reach you steady and reassuring. Your body feels different now, more settled, less alert. The constant edge that once stayed with you through the night has eased, replaced by something slower, more fluid. You shift slightly, your movement small, your breathing calm. Around you others remain close. Their presence is steady, marked by quiet movements, slow breaths, subtle adjustments. No one speaks, yet the space feels shared in a way that did not exist before. You glance again at the fading glow. It changes, constantly. Small pieces darken, then brighten again as they shift. You watch it, and something begins to form. Not a clear thought, not a defined idea, but a sense, a connection between what you see now and what you have seen before. Earlier days, earlier nights, moments that feel similar. A widely supported idea among researchers is that the development of memory in early humans was gradual evolving, alongside changes in brain structure and social behavior. Over time, the ability to recognize patterns and retain experiences became more refined. You feel it now, a faint echo, not a story, but a recognition. This place, this warmth, this gathering, it has happened before. You do not recall it in detail. You do not revisit it, but you sense it. A softer detail often discussed in research is that repeated experiences, even without language, can create a kind of shared memory within groups. Patterns become familiar, actions become expected, and over time behavior begins to follow these quiet traces. You look toward the others. Their movements feel known, predictable in a gentle way. You begin to anticipate small actions. A shift before someone settles. A movement before someone rises. You sense it before it happens. This is new. Or perhaps it has been growing slowly unnoticed until now. Some scholars suggest that this growing awareness of others may have played a key role in the development of early social intelligence. The ability to read subtle cues to understand intention without words could strengthen group cohesion. You rest your hands against the ground, feeling its warmth fading slowly. The air beyond the circle remains cool, but within this space the balance holds. You breathe in deeply. The scent of the embers lingers. Faint, but present, it mixes with the natural smells of the land, creating something unfamiliar, something distinct. You close your eyes briefly. Images do not form, not in the way you might expect, but sensations linger. Warmth, light, presence. They remain even as your eyes close. You drift, then return. The glow draws you back again. You notice how it anchors your attention, how it creates a center, a place to return to even within your own awareness. Some researchers propose that shared focal points like this may have contributed to early forms of group identity, giving individuals a common reference within their environment. You sit quietly, your body relaxed. The tension that once shaped your nights has softened, not gone, but reduced. You notice how your thoughts, if they can be called that, feel different. Less scattered, more connected. Moments do not disappear as quickly. They linger, even if only briefly. A lesser-known observation is that the emergence of memory may not have been a sudden shift, but a gradual layering of experiences, each one adding to a growing sense of continuity. You feel that layering now, not clearly, not fully, but present. You open your eyes again, watching the glow. It flickers, then steadies, then shifts again. You notice how your attention stays with it longer than before, not drifting away as easily, holding, remaining. This is how something new begins, not through sudden change, but through quiet repetition, through moments that stay just a little longer than they once did. You look toward the others again. Their presence feels more defined, not just shapes in the dark, but individuals connected to you. Through shared space, shared warmth, shared experience. Some experts suggest that these early forms of connection may have laid the groundwork for later developments in communication and culture, allowing humans to build more complex relationships over time. You sit within that connection now, not thinking about it, but feeling it. The night continues. The air remains cool. The glow persists. And within this quiet circle, something continues to grow. A deeper awareness, a stronger connection, a beginning. You settle further into the ground, your body at ease, your breathing slow, your attention gently held by the fading light. And as the night moves forward, you remain within this space where memory begins to take shape, where experience lingers just a little longer, and where something quietly human is starting to emerge. You remain near the fading glow, the last traces of warmth still resting gently against your skin. The embers have softened now, their light dimmer, their movement slower, yet they continue to hold your attention in a quiet, steady way. The night stretches around you, calm, unbroken, and within it you begin to notice something else. The space between moments, a pause that feels longer than before, not empty, but extended. You sit still, your breathing slow, your body relaxed. Around you, the group remains settled, each person within their own small space, yet still connected through the shared presence of the fading fire. You glance at the ground, at the stones, at the faint outlines of those nearby. Everything feels familiar, and yet something is missing. Or perhaps something has always been missing. A vast portion of time unseen, unrecorded, unremembered. When scientists study this period of human history, they rely on fragments. Stone tools scattered remains traces of activity left behind in the earth. But these fragments represent only a tiny fraction of what once existed. You sit within that absence now, within a world where most moments leave no trace, no mark, no memory that can be carried forward beyond immediate experience. A point often emphasized in research is that the archaeological record is incomplete by nature. For every tool discovered, countless others may have been lost. For every site uncovered, many more remain hidden or have disappeared entirely. You feel it, not as a loss, but as a quiet emptiness, a space where something could be but is not. You look toward the others. Their presence is real, immediate. Yet you know in a way that is not fully formed that this moment will not remain. It will pass, and leave little behind. A lesser-known aspect of early human history is how much of daily life was likely ephemeral. Materials like wood plant fibres and simple shelters rarely survive over long periods, leaving large gaps in our understanding of how people lived. You shift slightly, the ground firm beneath you. The embers glow faintly, their light barely reaching beyond the centre. You watch as a small piece collapses inward, the glow dimming further. Time moves, quietly, without markers, without record. You notice how your awareness lingers longer now than it once did. Moments do not vanish as quickly. They stretch, overlap, remain if only briefly. Yet beyond that there is still a vast silence. Some researchers suggest that the long stretches of unrecorded human history may hold countless developments that we simply cannot see. Others believe that change was slow, gradual, leaving little that would stand out in the material record. You sit within that uncertainty, not trying to understand it, but feeling it. The unknown, the unseen, the unspoken. You look toward the horizon. Dark, still. Nothing moves there. No sign of what has come before. No sign of what will come after. Only the present. A quieter reflection often raised in discussions of this period is how much of human experience may never be recovered. Entire ways of life, patterns of behaviour and forms of interaction may have existed without leaving any lasting evidence. You breathe slowly. The air feels cool, steady. You feel the presence of the group again, subtle but constant. They are here, now. That is all that exists. You notice how your thoughts, if they can be called that, do not reach far. They do not extend into the past or the future. They remain close, anchored, and yet something within you is beginning to stretch slightly beyond that. A faint awareness that there is more than what is immediately visible, more than what can be held in this moment. You shift your gaze back to the embers. They glow faintly, then dim, then glow again. A cycle, small but noticeable. You follow it, noticing the pattern, holding it for just a little longer each time. This is how understanding begins, not through clear answers, but through attention, through noticing what repeats, what remains. Even within a world that forgets almost everything, you sit there within the fading light, surrounded by the quiet presence of others and the vast silence of time that stretches far beyond what you can see. And you begin to sense something profound, that most of what has ever existed will not be known, that most of what you experience will not be remembered, and yet it matters. In this moment, in this breath, in this quiet awareness, you remain still, the night deep around you, the embers fading slowly, holding onto this fragile connection to the present as long as it lasts. You sit quietly as the last glow of the embers begins to fade into a softer, deeper darkness. The warmth still lingers faintly, though it no longer reaches as far. The circle that once held light now blends more gently into the surrounding night. And yet something remains, not the fire itself, but what it created. A space, a focus, a place where attention gathered. You feel it still, even as the light diminishes. You shift slightly, your fingers brushing across the ground beside you. The surface feels different here, touched by heat changed in small ways. You press lightly, noticing how the soil responds. Your hand moves again, not searching, not reaching for anything specific, just moving. You trace a line across the surface. It leaves a mark, faint, uneven, but visible. You pause. You look at it. There is no immediate reason for what you've done, no purpose tied to survival, and yet something about the mark holds your attention. You draw another line, crossing the first, then another. The ground now carries a small pattern, irregular, simple, but there. Some researchers point to early markings found in caves and on stones as possible signs of symbolic behavior, suggesting that humans may have begun making marks that held meaning beyond immediate function. You look at the lines again. They do not represent anything clear. Not yet, but they remain. Even as you lift your hand, a subtle detail sometimes discussed is that the earliest forms of human expression may not have been fully intentional in the way we think of art today. Instead, they may have emerged gradually from repeated actions, curiosity, and attention. You move your hand again, this time across a small stone. The surface resists slightly harder than the soil, but the motion feels similar. A faint scratch appears. You tilt your head, observing. The mark is lighter, more delicate, but present. You sit there for a moment, your attention focused on these small changes you have made. The group around you remains quiet, some resting, others shifting slightly in place. No one reacts to what you're doing. It does not interrupt the shared stillness. And yet something has begun. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. You feel a connection between your movement and what remains behind, a cause, and an effect. You press your fingers again into the soil, tracing another line. Slower this time, more deliberate. The mark forms as you move. You watch it appear, then remain. Some scholars suggest that the development of early symbolic behavior may have been linked to increased cognitive complexity, allowing humans to represent ideas or actions in physical form. You do not know this, but you feel something close to it, a faint sense that what you do can stay, even if only for a short time. You look toward the others. Their presence feels steady, unchanged, and yet you begin to see them slightly differently. Not just as movement, not just as shared space, but as part of something that can be observed, noted, held, even if only in small ways. You glance back at the ground. The marks remain. Simple lines, crossing, layering, nothing more. And yet they draw your attention again. You reach down once more, tracing another path beside them. A new line, parallel, then another. The pattern grows, still simple, still without clear meaning, but more defined. A lesser-known observation from archaeological studies is that some of the earliest known engravings consist of repeated lines or geometric patterns, suggesting that early humans may have been experimenting with form and repetition before creating more complex imagery. You sit back slightly, your hand resting against your leg. You look at what you have made. There is no sense of completion, No clear end, only a pause. The marks exist now, separate from you. You shift your gaze upward. The night remains, the star steady above, the air cool and calm. And yet something has changed, not in the world around you, but in how you interact with it. You have left something behind. Small, temporary, but real. You feel it. A quiet awareness that your actions can shape the space around you in ways that extend beyond the moment. You glance once more at the marks, then slowly your attention drifts away. The group remains. The night continues. The air cools slightly, and the lines on the ground remain where you placed them, unnoticed by others, unaffected by anything beyond your movement. For now, you settle back into stillness, your body relaxing once more, your breathing slow, your awareness soft. And as the night continues, you carry with you this small beginning, this quiet act of marking, of shaping, of leaving something behind, even in a world where almost nothing lasts. You remain seated for a while, your gaze drifting between the faint marks on the ground and the dim glow that now barely holds its light. The night feels quieter than before, as if something has settled into place without drawing attention to itself. Your body relaxes further. The tension that once stayed close during darkness now feels more distant, softened by the warmth that still lingers and the presence of others nearby. You breathe slowly, steadily. The air moves in and out with ease. Around you the group remains calm. Some lie still, their movements minimal. Others shift slightly, adjusting their position without fully waking. There is no urgency here. No need to remain as alert as before. Something has changed. Not in a single moment, but through accumulation, through repetition. Over long stretches of time, early humans experienced gradual physical and cognitive changes that shaped how they interacted with the world. These changes did not happen within a single lifetime, but across many generations, slowly altering both body and mind. You feel a subtle reflection of that process within yourself. Not clearly, not in a way you can name, but present. You notice how your awareness lingers longer than it once did. Moments do not pass as quickly. They remain, even if only briefly. You look toward the others again. Their forms feel more distinct now. Not just shapes in the dark, but individuals, separate, recognizable. A detail sometimes discussed by researchers is that as human cognition developed the ability to distinguish individuals and remember, social interactions may have become more refined, strengthening group dynamics. You shift your position slightly, your hand brushing against the ground again. The marks you made earlier are still there, faint but visible. You run your fingers lightly over them. They have not changed, but your sense of them has. You recognize them as something you created, something that remains. This recognition feels small, yet meaningful. You lift your hand, then rest it again against your body. The night continues. The air remains cool, the stars steady above, and within this stillness your awareness expands slightly. You notice your breathing, the rise and fall of your chest, the feeling of air moving through you. You notice the ground beneath you, the way it supports your weight, the texture against your skin. These sensations feel clearer, more connected. A quieter observation, sometimes raised, is that increased self-awareness may have emerged gradually alongside other cognitive developments, allowing early humans to reflect even in simple ways on their own experience. You do not reflect in words, but you feel, you notice, you remain. The group around you continues to rest, their breathing slow, their movements minimal. There is a shared calm here, a balance. You glance upward again. The sky stretches endlessly, filled with distant points of light. You have seen this before, many times, and yet it feels slightly different now. Not new, but more familiar, as if it stays with you longer. Some scholars suggest that as memory and awareness developed, repeated exposure to the same environment could create a deeper sense of familiarity, shaping how individuals experience their surroundings. You feel that familiarity now, a quiet recognition, not detailed, but present. You lower your gaze again, your attention returning to the space around you. The embers have dimmed further. The warmth is faint, the circle of light nearly gone, and yet the group remains close. The pattern holds, even without the strong presence of fire. This continuity suggests something important. The connection does not depend entirely on the source. It remains even as conditions change. A subtle insight often noted is that once certain behaviors are established, they can persist even when the original cause becomes less central. You shift slightly, settling more comfortably. Your body feels heavier now, more at rest. Sleep comes more easily. Deeper, longer. You close your eyes. The sensations remain. The warmth, the ground, the presence of others, but they begin to fade into the background. You drift, not in fragments as before, but in a smoother, more continuous way. A softer descent. The night continues around you. The air remains cool. The land still. And within this quiet moment, something continues to change. Slowly, subtly. Your body, your awareness, your connection to the world, not in ways that can be seen clearly, but in ways that will shape everything that comes after. You rest within that change, carried gently by it. Your breathing steady your body at ease as the night holds you in a deeper, more settled form of sleep. You wake more slowly this time, as if the night has held you longer than before. The darkness has already begun to soften, and the first pale light rests gently along the horizon. The air remains cool, but it no longer feels sharp. It has settled into something calmer, something easier to move within. Your body responds with less resistance. You sit up, noticing that the stiffness in your limbs has eased. Your movements feel smoother, more fluid. The ground beneath you is still firm, still present, but your body seems to accept it more easily. Around you, the group begins to stir, not all at once, not with urgency, just small movements unfolding naturally. Someone shifts onto their side, another sits upright, pausing before standing. A few remain still, resting a little longer. The circle that formed around the fire has softened but not disappeared. Even without the strong glow of warmth, the group remains close, as if the pattern continues on its own. You rise to your feet. The air touches your skin, cool but manageable. You draw in a breath, noticing how it feels fuller, more open. The light grows, slowly. The land begins to return shapes forming out of shadow. The ground, the stones, the figures around you, everything reappears in quiet layers. You take a step forward, then another. Movement returns, but something feels different, subtle, yet present. You notice how your attention extends a little further now, not just to what is directly in front of you, but to what lies beyond. The horizon draws your gaze more often. The space ahead feels more noticeable. A widely supported idea in evolutionary science is that increased curiosity and exploratory behavior may have played a key role in human survival, encouraging individuals to move beyond immediate needs and engage more deeply with their environment. You feel that shift now, not as a question, not as a thought, but as a pull, a quiet interest in what lies beyond what you already know. You walk with the group, your pace steady. The land stretches ahead, familiar in its openness, yet holding something new in the way you experience it. You notice a small rise in the distance. Not large, not difficult, but different enough to draw your attention. You look at it, then begin to move toward it. Others follow, not because you lead, but because the movement itself carries meaning. You climb slowly your steps, careful, your body adjusting to the incline. The ground feels stable, the texture familiar beneath your feet. At the top you pause. The view opens. Wider than before, you can see further. More land, more variation, more possibility. You stand there for a moment, not resting, not searching, just noticing. A quieter observation, sometimes discussed by researchers, is that increased awareness of distant landscapes may have influenced early human exploration, encouraging movement into new areas over time. You feel that awareness now. The distance no longer feels empty. It feels filled with potential. You descend the slope, your steps steady your gaze, still drawn outward. The group continues with you, maintaining that quiet connection, each person moving within the shared rhythm. The land below offers small variations. clusters of plants, slight dips in the ground, subtle differences that catch your attention more quickly than before. You notice them more easily, more often. This growing awareness begins to shape your movement. You adjust your path slightly, stepping toward areas that seem more promising even if you cannot fully explain why. Some experts suggest that this kind of intuitive decision-making may have developed alongside cognitive changes, allowing early humans to respond more effectively to complex environments. You walk on the sun, rising higher, its warmth returning. The air shifts again, becoming more balanced. You feel it along your skin, a familiar pattern, yet now you notice it more clearly. The change in temperature, the movement of air, the subtle differences from one place to another. Everything feels slightly more connected, more continuous. You glance toward the others. Their movements remain steady, but you begin to see more detail. The way they step, the way they pause, the way they look. Each action carries meaning, even if it is not fully understood. This is how curiosity grows, not through sudden realization, but through quiet attention, through noticing, through staying with what is present just a little longer. You continue forward the land, unfolding ahead, the group moving beside you, each step carrying you into a world that feels both familiar and new. And within that movement, something continues to expand. A gentle awareness, a deeper connection, a growing sense that there is more to the world than immediate survival alone. You walk on, guided by that quiet pull, your body steady, your mind open in ways it has not been before, moving gently toward what lies beyond the horizon. You continue forward with the group, the steady rhythm of movement returning once more, yet carrying with it something quieter and more refined. The sun has risen higher now, casting a steady light across the land. The air feels balanced, neither too warm nor too cool, allowing your body to move with ease. Your steps feel more certain, more deliberate, not slower, not faster, but more precise. You notice how your foot lands on the ground, how your weight shifts, how your balance adjusts with each movement. These small details, once unnoticed, now remain within your awareness just a little longer. The land ahead offers variation again. Small stones, patches of soil, scattered plants. Nothing dramatic, yet enough to shape your path. You step around a larger stone, then over a smaller one, your movement smooth, almost effortless. Nearby, one of the others slows. You notice it immediately. Their attention is settled on something in their hand. You move closer. A stone, similar to the one you once picked up, but different. Its edge is sharper, more defined. You watch as they turn it slowly, examining its surface. Then, with careful movement, they strike it lightly against another stone. A small fragment breaks away. They pause, adjust, then strike again, more controlled this time. The edge becomes cleaner, more precise. The development of more refined stone tools, often associated with later stages of early human culture, shows a gradual increase in skill and intention. These tools were not only functional, but also shaped with greater consistency over time. You crouch beside them, watching closely. Each movement matters. Each strike changes the shape, not randomly, but with growing control. You feel your own hand tighten slightly around your stone. You lift it, turn it, examine it more carefully than before. The surface feels familiar, yet now you notice more detail. The uneven edges, the points where it might break more easily. You strike it gently against another stone. The sound is sharp, clear. A small piece falls away. You pause. Look, the edge has changed, slightly, but noticeably. A quieter detail often discussed in research is that the refinement of tools likely required not only physical skill, but also a developing sense of cause and effect, allowing early humans to predict how materials would respond to their actions. You strike again, more carefully. The movement feels different now, more controlled, more intentional. The edge becomes sharper. You run your fingers along it, feeling the difference. It cuts slightly into your skin. Not enough to harm, but enough to confirm its change. You hold it still for a moment. This is no longer just something found. It is something shaped. You rise the group, already beginning to move again. You follow, carrying the tool with a new awareness. The land stretches ahead unchanged in its openness, yet your interaction with it has shifted. You notice how the tool feels in your hand as you walk. Its weight, its edge, its presence. You spot a cluster of plants ahead and move toward them. You crouch, reaching down. This time, when you pull at the roots, you use the edge. The movement is easier, more effective. The soil breaks more cleanly. The root comes free with less effort. You pause. You notice the difference. Then continue. You gather more quickly now, not faster in movement, but more efficient. A point often emphasized in archaeological studies is that improved tools allowed early humans to access resources more effectively, increasing survival chances over time. You rise again, the group shifting forward. You move with them, your tool still in hand. You notice how your attention returns to it again and again. Not constantly, but often. It has become part of your movement, part of your interaction with the world. You glance at the others. Some carry similar tools, others do not. But you begin to see the difference in movement, in action, in result. Some experts suggest that the increasing reliance on tools may have influenced social dynamics, as knowledge of tool making and use became more valuable within groups. You walk on the sun, steady above the land unfolding ahead. The rhythm continues. Step. Pause. Observe. Continue. But now there is something added. A new layer. A new interaction. Between you and the world around you. You step forward, your foot landing softly. Your hand holds the shaped stone. Your awareness remains steady. And within this quiet movement, something continues to evolve. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But steadily. Your ability to shape. To change, to influence, even in small ways. You walk on, carrying that change with you step by step as the world continues to unfold, and your place within it becomes just a little more defined. You continue forward, the shaped stone resting steadily in your hand. Its edge catches the light now, and then a small glint that feels almost unfamiliar, as if it reflects not just the sun, but something within you that has begun to change. The land stretches outward, wide and open, yet no longer entirely unknown. You walk with a quiet confidence, not because the world has become easier, but because your way of moving through it has shifted. The group remains close, their rhythm, steady, their movements familiar. Yet there is a subtle difference in how you see them now. Each action stands out more clearly. Each motion carries a trace of intention. You notice someone ahead pause near a patch of ground. You slow. Others slow as well. You move closer. They are using a tool, not just holding it, using it. The stone meets the earth with controlled pressure, loosening soil, exposing what lies beneath. The motion is careful, repeated, refined. You watch. Then, almost without thinking, you mirror the action. Your own tool meets the ground. The resistance is there, and then it gives. The soil breaks, more easily than before. You pull at the roots beneath, lifting them free with less effort. You pause. Feel the difference. Then continue. This is something more than survival. It is improvement. Archaeological evidence points to a gradual increase in tool complexity during this period, with certain techniques becoming more standardized across different groups. This suggests that knowledge was not only discovered but shared and repeated over time. You rise, holding the root in one hand, the tool in the other. You eat slowly, the familiar taste grounding you in the present. But your attention returns to the tool, again and again. A subtle observation often noted by specialists is that repeated use of tools may have encouraged longer periods of focus, allowing early humans to stay engaged with tasks in a more sustained way. You feel that focus now, a steadiness in your attention, a quiet persistence. You walk on the group, moving with you, each person carrying their own rhythm, yet contributing to the shared movement. The sun begins to lower slightly, though there is still time before evening. The light softens just enough to change the way the land looks. Shadows grow longer, shapes deepen. You notice more detail in the ground, more variation, more possibility. You adjust your path slightly, stepping toward an area where the soil appears looser, more promising. You crouch. You use the tool again. The motion feels more natural this time, less effort, more control. You uncover another route, then another. Each one adds to the quiet understanding building within you. This works. This matters. Some researchers suggest that this stage of development marks an important transition, where humans began to rely not just on what the environment provided directly, but on their ability to modify it. You stand again, your body steady. The group begins to gather, slightly drawn to the same area, not tightly, but with shared attention. You notice how this focus spreads. One person finds something, others follow. The group adapts. This is how knowledge moves here, not through explanation, but through presence, through observation, through repetition. A lesser-known insight from research is that early cultural transmission may have depended heavily on visibility. Actions needed to be seen in order to be learned, making proximity an important part of knowledge sharing. You walk with the others, your tool still in hand. You notice how it has become part of you, not separate, not external, but integrated into your movement. Your reach extends through it. Your ability expands with it. The land ahead remains open, yet it feels different now. Not just something you pass through, but something you can interact with, shape, influence, even in small ways. The sun lowers further, the light growing softer, more diffused. You feel the shift. Evening approaches. The air cools slightly. The rhythm of the day begins to slow, and within that slowing, something else becomes clear. You are approaching a threshold, not marked by anything visible, not defined by a single moment, but present, a transition from a world where survival is immediate and constant, to one where change begins to accumulate, where small actions begin to build upon one another, where the future, though still unseen, starts to take shape through repetition and refinement. You walk forward into that space, your steps steady your awareness. Open your hand, holding the tool that connects you to something larger, something unfolding, something that will continue far beyond this moment. You continue forward as the light begins to soften once more, the long arc of the day slowly bending toward evening. The air cools gently around you, and the land takes on a quieter tone, as if everything is settling into a slower rhythm. Your steps remain steady. Your breathing calm. The tool rests in your hand, familiar now, no longer something new, but something that belongs within your movement. You walk with the group, each person maintaining that quiet balance between distance and connection. No one leads, no one follows in a fixed way, yet the direction holds. The land stretches ahead, open, wide, uncertain, and as you move through it, something deeper begins to rise within your awareness, not tied to any single moment, not triggered by anything you can see, but present, a sense of questions without words. You glance toward the horizon. It remains distant, unchanged, and yet it draws your attention more often now. You notice how your gaze lingers, how your awareness extends beyond what is immediately in front of you. You wonder in the quiet way that exists without language what lies further, beyond what you can see, beyond where you have walked. A widely discussed idea among researchers is that as human cognition developed, curiosity about the unknown may have played an increasing role in shaping behavior, encouraging exploration beyond familiar territories. You feel that pull now, subtle, but persistent. You step forward, the ground firm beneath you. The air carries a faint coolness. The light softens further, and within this moment something becomes clear. There is so much you do not know, so much that cannot be seen, so much that cannot be understood. You notice the others. Their movements remain steady, focused, grounded in the present, and yet you begin to sense that they too carry something similar, a quiet awareness of the unknown, not expressed, but shared. A softer insight often mentioned in research is that early humans likely lived with a constant sense of uncertainty, not as a burden, but as a natural part of existence. You walk on your attention, shifting between the ground beneath you and the space ahead. You notice small details, the texture of the soil, the movement of the air, the faint changes in light, and at the same time you notice the larger space, the distance, the horizon. Both exist together now, the immediate and the beyond. You step over a small rise, your foot landing firmly on the other side. The land continues, unbroken. You realize that no matter how far you walk, there will always be more. More land, more change, more unknown. Some researchers continue to examine the limits of what we can understand about this period. The available evidence offers glimpses, but never a complete picture. Much remains beyond reach, hidden in time. You feel that unknowable space now, not as something distant, but as something surrounding you. You move through it, within it, part of it. You glance at the tool in your hand. It represents something you can shape, something you can control even if only slightly. But beyond that, the world remains vast, unpredictable, unexplained. You continue walking the group steady beside you, each step carrying you forward into a landscape that holds both familiarity and mystery. The sun lowers further, the light growing softer, more diffused. Shadows stretch across the ground. The air cools again. Evening approaches, and within this quiet transition you begin to understand something important, that there are limits to what can be known, limits to what can be remembered, limits to what can be controlled, and yet within those limits life continues. Movement continues. You continue. You walk forward, not seeking answers, not searching for explanations, but simply moving through a world that offers both clarity and mystery in equal measure. And as the light fades, you carry with you that quiet acceptance, that not everything can be understood, that not everything needs to be. You step into the deepening evening, the land soft beneath your feet, the air cool around you, the horizon still distant, still open, still waiting. You continue walking as the final light of day settles gently across the land, the horizon glowing softly before giving way to night. The air cools around you, familiar now, no longer sharp or unexpected, but part of the rhythm you have come to understand. Your steps slow, not from fatigue alone, but from a quiet awareness that something is shifting, not just a day, something larger. The group begins to settle once more, their movements soft, unhurried. A place to rest is found without effort, guided by the same quiet understanding that has carried you through every step. You lower yourself to the ground, the surface firm beneath you, the air cool against your skin. The tool rests beside you. The others remain close. The night begins, but it does not feel the same as before. There is a sense of familiarity now, of repetition, of patterns that return again and again. A commonly accepted understanding among researchers is that over time these repeated patterns of movement wrest all use, and social interaction laid the foundation for the development of more complex human societies. You feel that foundation now, not as a structure, not as something built, but as something lived, step by step, moment by moment. The embers from earlier nights are not here now, yet the memory of their warmth lingers in your awareness. You notice how the group still settles in a similar way close together, as if the pattern continues even without the source. You lie back, your gaze lifting toward the sky. The stars return, steady, endless. They feel more familiar now, not understood, but known in a quiet way. You breathe slowly. The air moves easily. Your body relaxes, and within that stillness something else settles. A sense of continuation, of movement that doesn't end here. Some researchers suggest that the long period before recorded history shaped nearly everything that came after, even though much of it remains beyond our understanding. Others point out that while we can trace certain developments, large portions of this time remain open to interpretation. You feel that unknown space around you, not as something distant, but as something you exist within. You close your eyes briefly, then open them again. The night remains. The group remains. You remain, and yet you sense that this moment is part of something much larger. A long path that stretches forward, toward changes you cannot see, toward ways of living that have not yet formed, toward a world that will one day remember. You shift slightly, your body settling more deeply into the ground. Your breathing slows further. The sounds of the night return soft and distant. The air cool, the land still. You feel the presence of the others beside you. their breathing steady, their bodies close enough to share warmth, yet separate enough to remain their own. This balance holds, as it always has, and as it will continue to. A quieter reflection sometimes raised by scholars is that even though we cannot fully reconstruct this vast span of time, its influence remains within us, shaping how we move, think, and connect. You lie there beneath the wide sky, feeling that connection without needing to understand it. The past stretches behind you, the future lies ahead, both unseen, both vast, and you rest in the present. In this moment, in this quiet space between what was and what will be, your breathing slows further, your body softens, the ground supports you, the air surrounds you, the night deepens, and slowly, gently everything begins to settle. The movement of the day fades, the awareness softens. The world grows quieter. You drift, not suddenly, but gradually, carried by the steady rhythm that has guided you through every step of this long unseen journey. And as you move towards sleep, the land remains. The sky remains. The quiet continues. A vast story, mostly unwritten, mostly unknown, yet always present. You rest within it, and it rests within you. Now as everything softens, let the world fade a little further. The air grows cooler but gentler now. The stars drift quietly above, steady and calm. The ground beneath you feels softer, as if it is holding you more carefully. The sounds of the night become distant, blending into a quiet hum that no longer calls for your attention. You breathe slowly, in and out. Each breath softer than the last. The edges of the world blur, the land fades, the sky dims, and all that remains is a quiet sense of presence, a feeling of being held within something vast and calm. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go, only rest, only stillness, only the gentle rhythm of breath and quiet. And as the night settles fully around you, you drift deeper into that calm, carried by the soft continuity of time, into a place where everything is quiet, everything is steady, and everything is at ease. Sweet dreams.